Please take notice that action will be taken on the following items at the regular council meeting on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, in council chambers, Sparta Township, Municipal Building, 65 Main Street, Sparta, New Jersey. The regular meeting is opened at 7:03 p.m. All council meetings are now live streamed and can be viewed at the following link: www.youtube.com/SpartaTWP/streams. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the public and the press on January 5th, 2024 by delivering to the press and posting on the township website a copy of the notice. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Quinn.
Here.
Councilman Chiarello.
I am present.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. All rise to salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have two proclamations tonight, and one I will give to Councilman Chiarello as a member of our Business Development Committee liaison to celebrate Small Business Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I will do it. These are one of the proclamations where I actually wish I didn't have to do it. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so many families are affected by this, and it has a ripple effect through not only the family but in our community. But we have to shed light on it. The only way you help deal with it is if you bring it out into the open and deal with it. And thankfully, we have an organization here in Sussex County called the Domestic Abuse Sexual Assault Intervention Services, or DAISY for short. And so I'll read the proclamation, and then I understand we have a representative from DAISY here who will come forward after I'm done with the proclamation. Thank you. National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that affects people of all races, ages, genders, and income levels. Domestic violence is widespread and affects over 12 million Americans over the course of a year. Nearly 3 in 10 women and 1 in 10 men in the United States have experienced physical violence, rape, and/or stalking by a partner and reported it having a related impact on their functioning. And whereas personal relationships should be a source of comfort and support, a solid foundation for each person's empowerment and achievement in his or her daily life, domestic violence dissolves that foundation, affecting millions of men, women, and children. And whereas during National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we reassert our commitment to eradicating this devastating crime so that all homes are places of refuge and love, not fear of violence. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township Council of the Township of Sparta does hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we encourage all residents to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy, services, and assistance to all victims. All residents of Sparta Township are encouraged to wear purple through the month of October to show support for the survivors of domestic violence. And so if I have a representative of DAISY come forward to accept this proclamation and also maybe share a little bit about what DAISY does and how people can get in touch with representatives from them.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
We appreciate your support. Hi, everyone. Actually, tonight over at the college, we're doing our Domestic Violence Awareness Month Vigil, where we honor those that have lost their lives to domestic violence. I just want to say thank you. We are truly grateful to you for your support, to the township. We work closely with the police departments, and I know this isn't an easy job for you all either. So I just wanted to say thank you for your support on behalf of DAISY and survivors.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, next up is our Small Business Saturday proclamation.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor Clark. So it is my honor to read this proclamation for Small Business Saturday. Whereas the Township of Sparta recognizes the importance of small businesses as the glue that holds communities together. Small businesses in Sparta Township are flourishing and make up over 60% of all businesses in the area. Nationwide, small businesses can create more than 2/3 of the net new jobs over the past 2 decades. And whereas advocacy groups, and public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. And whereas one of Sparta Township's greatest assets is its unique array of locally owned and operated independent businesses, which are a part of the fabric of the community. And whereas local business owners and operators invest in Sparta Township, contribute to the local economy, offer quality jobs for residents, engage in civic concerns, support local initiatives, and are essential to our success as a community. The support of these businesses is critical to maintaining a socially, environmentally, and financially sustainable and vibrant community. And whereas we value the businesses located in the community and celebrate the diversity of the goods and services they provide to residents and visitors. Now therefore be it resolved that even though the Sparta Township Council of the Township of Sparta recognizes that Saturday, November 30th, 2024 is Small Business Saturday, we would like to encourage all residents to continue to support local businesses by buying locally during this holiday season as well as throughout the year. And I do see people that would benefit from this, so you can join me.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
all
very
you do.
much.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you to all of you for this proclamation. Our Sparta businesses, as well as our Sussex County area businesses, are so important. They're the backbone of this community, as well as in the state and across America, small business is critical. So I thank you for your support of our small businesses. They mean a lot to us in this economy, and certainly at times when it gets tough, the small business owners are the ones that feel the effects especially, and so it's great to see many of them thriving right now. So thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
And you should introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Tammy Horsfield. I'm president of the Sussex County Chamber of Commerce and also the Sussex County Economic Development Partnership. Thank you.
And thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Tammy, for all the work that you do tirelessly. I know about what you do. We've worked on different things before, and your commitment to the businesses and local businesses in our county is just inspirational and remarkable. So thank you for all your work, and thank you for everything you do to support the businesses.
Yeah, I think our small businesses, particularly in Sparta, I mean, one way to find this out is you look at, say, a baseball field, and you see all the banners of all the local businesses that support it. And, you know, in a prior life, I put on a 5K for our local library where I lived, and it was always the small businesses that were the easiest to work with to get donations. When I tried to go to, say, a Whole Foods or a Safeway or some big, you know, corporate conglomerate, there were 15 layers of bureaucracy, and even when they came through, it was maybe, you know, some oranges. But the dry cleaner, the restaurant, the local restaurant, they would always step up and be very generous, and it's no different here in Sparta. And so I thank you very much for all the work that you do. I know this council is committed to trying to do initiatives that help our small business, and that's, you know, part of the reason why I've been pushing the entertainment production, because those are a lifeline, and they form their own economic ecosystem, particularly for small businesses. And so I'm hoping that we can do even more initiatives to support our small business here in Sparta and in Sussex County. Okay, next up are more mundane matters that we have to do, which are approval of various minutes. And so I will make a motion to approve the October 10th, 2023 executive meeting minutes. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve executive meeting minutes, October 10th, 2023.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The October 10th, 2023 executive meeting minutes as presented have been approved. May I have a motion to approve the October 24th, 2023 executive meeting minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve executive meeting minutes, October 24th, 2023.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The executive session meetings as presented for October 24th, 2023 are approved. May I have a motion to approve the January 9th, 2024 executive meeting minutes as presented?
I move that we approve executive meeting minutes for January 9th, 2024.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The executive meeting minutes for January 9th, 2024 have been approved. May I have a motion to approve the January 23rd, 2024 executive meeting minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion, we approve executive meeting minutes for January 23rd, 2024 as presented.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 The January 23rd, 2024 executive meeting minutes as presented have been approved. Finally, may I have a motion to approve the August 27th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for August 27th, 2024.
May I have a second, please?
I will second that one, too.
All in favor, say aye.
I have
Aye.
a comment on it, actually, for
okay.
discussion. So in these meeting minutes, and I can ask Mr. Ryan how we handle this, there was a statement made during this discussion on this topic that was inaccurate in terms of fact, and it was mentioned at the end of the meeting in unfinished business. Can we reflect that in these meeting minutes somehow?
No, the meeting minutes are intended to reflect exactly what was said.
conversation, yeah.
However, you certainly can make that comment in this evening's meeting, and it will be reflected in the minutes of this
For
evening's
this meeting.
meeting.
Okay. So my comment is, there's a statement in here referring, it was mentioned once or twice, but in here it mentions Mayor Clark stating it, that the latest survey showed that residents wanted more turf fields. And there was an inaccurate number stated during this conversation that night. The fact is, and I have the study here, 8 people of the 334 residents that responded mentioned add a turf field in the survey that was mentioned. So I just wanted to make that correction on the record, that it was only 8 people, not a much higher number that was incorrectly stated during that conversation that evening. And the survey was the 2024 Sparta Open Space and Recreation Public Survey.
Okay, any other
So the clerk
comments?
will note that in the
Yeah,
minutes of
just as long
tonight's
as it's still
meeting.
stated in there as well, that there was also reference to the study that was done in 2021 and released in 2021, that 1,800 people completed and participated in, and the number one thing that they wanted was turf fields.
Okay, any other comments about the August 27th, 2024, which will be reflected in the meeting minutes for this meeting today, but will not be changed in the August 27th meeting minutes? Okay, so I had a first and a second, so all in favor of approving the August 27th, 2024 meeting minutes, say aye.
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 The August 27th, 2024 regular meeting minutes are approved. Next up is the manager's report. Mr. Zepp, may we have the manager's report?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Sparta residents. The past few weeks, the township has sustained several structure fires. I want to extend our sincere appreciation and thanks to Ryan Odom, Deputy Fire Chief, and the Fire Department members, Police Chief Jeff McCarrick and his staff, Sparta Ambulance Squad and members, Police Dispatching Staff, Animal Control Officer, as well as any and all other municipalities who provided mutual aid during the events. All of these people train for these events and do their best to minimize loss of life. We are very fortunate to have such quality emergency services. The Parks and Recreation Harvest Festival and Trunk or Treat is on Saturday, October 26th at White Lake Field, starting at noon to 5 p.m., with the Trunk or Treat taking place between 2 and 3 p.m. We ask that only Sparta residents attend to donate a bag of candy, which will be distributed to the trunks. Please come out and enjoy the beautiful weather. Sparta residents are encouraged to visit our planning and zoning webpage on the township's website. The Master Plan Subcommittee announced the Community Engagement Hub, wherein residents can learn about what a master plan is, history of previous master plans, who serves on the current subcommittee, as well as taking a community survey to make your opinion known. The survey link is open for responses from October 1st to November 15th. On Wednesday, November 6th, the Planning Board is hosting a joint meeting with the Town Council to discuss the draft of the Open Space and Recreation Plan. The draft plan is located on the website under News and Announcements. This plan will eventually be adopted and become an element of the new master plan. The Land Conservancy of New Jersey worked with several department staff in putting the plan together and has been funded through the Highlands Council's grant. The Public Works 2024 residential leaf bag collection starts next week for the first pickup and November 18th for the second pickup. We ask that residents be mindful of the placement of the bags so as not to impede stormwater flow. Details of this annual event can be found on the township's website. As a reminder, on October 31st, Valley View Trail will be closed from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. to all vehicular traffic. Valley View Trail will be closed at the intersections of Alpine Trail, Partridge Lane, and Summit Road. All unauthorized parking will be strictly enforced. Chief McCarrick will now read his portion of the manager's report. This concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and Sparta residents.
Just real quickly, what was the date of the joint meeting?
November 6th.
November 6th. Sorry, Chief.
Thank you, Manager Zepp. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. As the manager said, we have had several fires in the past few weeks. Unfortunately, there was one fatal fire that was about a week and a half ago. And since then, we've had 2 more structure fires, and just last evening, responded to a grill fire, which was close to a structure, and just this morning, another fire with a generator, which was close to a structure. And I know the manager thanked everybody that was involved with keeping everybody as safe as possible, and I do appreciate that too. You know, 4 of our officers did suffer minor smoke inhalation, were treated and released, and are back to work and doing just fine. With the extreme dry weather and temperatures lowering where heat sources are needed, felt the need to put out some tips about fire safety, and working with the fire chief and the fire marshal, we posted some information on our website and our social media for some fire safety tips, if you can see that. This month is also Pedestrian Safety Awareness Month, and one interesting fact is, according to NHTSA, is that 80% of pedestrian fatalities occur in the dark. Our Traffic Bureau and Patrol Division have been working together to make and bring more awareness to drivers and pedestrians about pedestrian safety. This past Sunday, officers conducted a pedestrian safety enforcement campaign on West Shore Trail in front of the Lake Mohawk Country Club. The enforcement lasted about an hour and 45 minutes, and several motor vehicle stops were conducted, but no summonses were issued. One of the observations was the number of pedestrians that do not use sidewalks or crosswalks, which does make it difficult for motorists. So we obviously encourage the use of the sidewalks, the use of the crosswalks, and pedestrians must also obey all the pedestrian laws, such as using those sidewalks and crosswalks. The police department is working with the DPW to properly mark areas in North Village with pedestrian crossing signs. 3 intersections on North Village have already been posted, and we were awaiting for more signs to update some more intersections. And you can find more pedestrian safety information on our social media. Lastly, the Sparta Police Department has applied and was awarded a grant from the Bureau of Justice for the police body armor. We were awarded $11,318.29 towards the purchase of new vests to help protect our officers. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief McCarrick, and I want to say a special thank you to your department, to you, also our members of the fire department. It's been a hell of a week, 10 days for folks there, and I think we're all in debt to the bravery, the courage, and the self-sacrifice that our men and women do on behalf of our citizens. I know that you know, when I went by on Thursday to visit members of the fire department and just to give them a small token of my appreciation, but I think that we all owe them a debt of gratitude, and you'll probably see in your mail a envelope and with a red little invoice in it. That's asking for a donation to our fire department, and I hope that everyone will look at that and contribute. These men and women put their lives on the line for us on a daily basis, and the least that we can do is to contribute something of our funds to help them, and not only just to thank them when you see them. So again, thank you for your bravery and your service to this township. And with that, may I have a motion to accept the manager's report?
I move that we accept the manager's report.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The manager's report is approved. It's sort of fitting tonight that we had a small business proclamation because tonight we have Mr. John Drake with Overcoat LLC, and he is a consultant with our Business Development Committee. And it's, they have a lot of responsibilities, but one of them is to help business development in our community. I know that Mr. Drake has been, very involved in that. We have Councilman Hertzberg is also a liaison for that, as is Councilman Chiarello. I see that we have two representatives from the Planning Board, our president, Ron Day, and our vice chairman, Billy Enright. Even though I didn't recognize you, Ron, the beard looks good on you. So, but anyway, if you want to come forward, John, maybe it's easier. There's a microphone here. What we wanted to get, at least I did, and I'm sure my other fellow council members will have some questions too. It's mainly, what is it that the Business Development Committee has been doing? What recommendations have you been making? What were they? Why did you make them? What was the basis, and has there been any results as a result of these recommendations? I think that's sort of generally, but you're the expert here, so just have at it.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Mayor and Council, for inviting me, and what great timing, as you mentioned, with the proclamation. On top of that, Tammy being here from the Chamber and Economic Development and the county level, I think it goes to show your commitment by retaining me to be your business advocate, really. I look at it as, we call it consultant, but business development advocate. And I'll basically just go through my presentation, and then if there's any questions, I can address those and some of your concerns. First of all, like who I am, how the heck did I get this job? And, previously doing some other stuff. Well, first of all, John Drake, business development advocate for the township, and even as important or more important for those doing or looking to do business in the township. So really, whether they're citizens or new businesses coming in, I advocate for them with the township. A bit of my background, just in case it kind of helps you to understand what helps me to be able to do the job for those people looking for assistance. I was employed for 34 years by a nationwide public utility. United Telephone became Sprint. We've changed the name 27 times anymore, so I don't know. So anyway, I worked there. I had the 5 northwestern counties all the way from Somerset up to here. So I had a pretty big area, did engineering, construction, customer service, all that kind of stuff. I was the highest ranking manager, highest ranking person in New Jersey. Why I mention that, the position enabled me to develop a kind of a personal network of contacts, which really becomes essential in assisting and then directing clients through the various processes they need to accomplish their pursuits. I'm able to use those contacts with local, county, state, other utility officials to get initial feel for and feasibility for whatever a client is proposing to endeavor upon, and to identify potential roadblocks. For example, you want to build a data center and there's not enough electric. That's the kind of stuff I have the ability to reach out to people and find out about. After I retired from Sprint in 2009, Tammy's here, Tammy ended up hiring me. So from 2009 to about 2020, I held the position of Director of Client Services for the Sussex County Economic Development Partnership. While I was there, I worked with clients and businesses that had interest in Sussex County, worked with individuals as well as small and large firms who wanted to establish or expand their businesses in the county. Essential to that service was my gaining an understanding of what their business plans were, and then giving them advice on whether their plans would be feasible or not. I also assisted individual clients in starting a business, which included registration with the state and the county, and even with the federal government, starting LLCs, C-Corps, and different things like that. We helped find them financing if they needed it, the different banks and grants that was possible, helped them with staffing and other necessities. Also helping me with, to be able to do the job that I'm doing here and have done elsewhere is for over 35 years, I served on many different boards, including state commissions and nonprofits. They're important because you do get to gain a lot of contacts and develop your network. And I served anything from a board member to the chairman. And in some of the boards, I'm not going to go through because there are just a lot of boards I know a lot of us are on. But I'm past chair and current vice chair at SCUMA, so that's involved between the landfill and the wastewater projects, and a lot of that, you know, I get to talk to Jim about. I'm on the board of directors at the New Jersey Department of Labor, on the board of mediation, so kind of helps you mediate things and learn to be, work through those processes. I'm on the board of directors at the Chamber of Commerce and at the Economic Development Partnership, and then a bunch of other ones that just helped me build my network. More importantly, what do I do as a business advocate here in Sparta? First of all, just to let you know, everyone I work with, I generally has an expectation that will be confidential, because some of the stuff they share is it could be competitive reasons or just things they don't want other people to have an advantage over them in knowing about. I meet and catch up on local issues, often with our manager, Jim Zepp. I come in and talk to him. He's always super busy. I don't know what you guys got him doing, but he's really busy. I meet with Dory and her team all the time, as well as the other township professionals. I got to tell you, they're all great and help me do my part in helping those that are looking to do business in Sparta. Tom Ryan, not so much, but like Corey Stoner and those guys are pretty good, so I had to throw that at him. But Tom's team is excellent, Angelo and the rest of them that work with us, so I appreciate their help. I meet business owners and prospective businesses every week. I get, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, it's actually easier, I get phone calls, emails, and text messages, mostly outside of normal business hours, because that's more convenient for people who are running businesses or you know, working out of the area. To get my contact information, they get my contact information from either other business owners in Sparta who say, you know, if you're looking to move here, if you're having an issue, call John. They get them from other people in Sussex County. The elected officials, not even just here, but all the way up to the commissioner level, they refer a lot. And then sometimes the employees upstairs, or even occasionally a board member. I know even our code enforcement person, when he's out there and he sees a problem, he's pretty good at sometimes, instead of maybe going too far writing them up, he refers them to me and we help them rectify whatever they've been doing. Besides helping explain application and permit process and issues, I work to understand their business, which is important, and then I help them, you know, to make a better decision, maybe a better path or direction we figured out. Very often, you know, they do come back, and I can tell when they talk to me, they appreciated just having somebody to bounce things off of. I offer guidance and referrals and resources to entrepreneurs, so I might mention to them, you know, a good professional to talk to, or, you know, and I usually don't say one, I'll give them 3 or 4 professionals that you might want to talk to, then they can make their choice from there. But sometimes my task is to help clients realize they should not pursue their plan because the overheads versus the return on investment would not be profitable for them, and you know, sometimes it's just not something that's going to work in this area. So sometimes you have to give them the hard news. I establish effective working relationships with site selectors, so people that are involved in hotel chains and different kind of food industries. I, you know, got to know them over the years, not just being here, but it just builds up getting to know them. State economic development agencies, you know, I worked with Tammy on, you know, we deal with them a lot. Of course, the elected officials and advisory boards. I perform economic development on ombudsmanship duties with the state, county, and municipal departments on behalf of the Sparta businesses and even Sparta Township itself, whether it's a committee meetings or special interest groups, nonprofits, and local groups that are having economic development issues or problems. I help discussed that with them. You know, a little bit on an interesting side, because I know it comes up for those who have heard challenges in doing business here in Sparta. I think we all recognize it here, but it's important for the public to know. It's important to recognize that almost 2 years ago, you know, the planning and zoning department upstairs went through significant employee turnover. I had been here then, and, you know, there was a change, and we lost a lot of those employees, and which we brought in a lot more employees. Same thing with the planning and zoning boards. They lost some sitting members and got some new ones on there. So that might have added to some of the frustration for applicants and people coming in to do work. How many businesses interested in expanding or starting a business here had given up and gone somewhere else because of application delays, or even the perceived anti-business atmosphere, which I didn't agree with, but, you know, some people felt that way. So there was a few I'm aware of, and I do know more so several larger businesses and developers who have temporarily paused moving ahead with their plans until they see what happens with a couple of the current ongoing proceedings. Just the way it is. A couple other businesses I know have just gone elsewhere for now. I think they're going to come back. But the main thing is our effort, especially with me and some of the folks on the Business Development Committee and the mayor, even Dan, our effort is try to work with these businesses and help them to stay and or come back. Now, if I have to say there's some good news, and there really is, you know, thanks to everyone being willing to adapt and change, to give good customer-type service. Since I was in the customer service-type business, I like to relate to that. Things have really improved. The intake employees, who are the folks upstairs, have done a great job on taking extra time to help those who come in to fill out applications and permits. It is a big effort, but they do it very professional and in a kind and caring manner, which you really can see it if you ever stop in and watch them talk to somebody. This is helping to avoid applicant error or omission on what it is needed to have a complete and acceptable application or permit. The feedback is very positive. I actually talked to some people who are in filling out their paperwork. If I'm walking in and they're walking out and I'm talking to them, they definitely are very understanding and seem a lot happier than they were months ago. Also, the team upstairs has reworked some of the applications, wording and directions to make it more user-friendly. Several of the improvement suggestions came from the Business Development Committee after meeting with business owners who we meet downstairs once a month anyway, who attend the meeting, and they gave us some of the ideas. And that's just another good example of us trying to be customer-friendly. Same hold truths for the zoning and the planning department. Since they're behind me, I got to be careful. But they've really pulled up and done a great job lately here in applicant feedback, and I talked to a lot of them. The board members, they're saying the hearing and turnaround time has greatly improved, and it just seems to be going a lot smoother. Just on a side note, you know, this happens everywhere, not just even in Sparta, but like the town typically is going to get blamed, oh, it's Sparta's fault, because it could be a DOP, DOT, county health department, or engineering, but sometimes the client's professionals haven't done a good job in saying, no, it's not really Sparta, you didn't fill out the stuff to start with the right way, so guess who gets, you know, kind of comes back that it's your fault. The town's fault, and, you know, we try to explain that it's not, and hopefully the professionals do. And just on a closing note, since I saw you had the cannabis things on your agenda, by coincidence, I mentioned it to Jim. The New Jersey Business Action Center actually has started, of all things, it's called the Cannabis Training Academy. And if you haven't seen it, it's you can go on the New Jersey Business Action Center site. It's a little time-consuming, 60 modules. Some of them are an hour, some of them are 2 hours. So I started taking that a few days ago. But what it does show you is with the 6 licenses that are out there now, it's so rigorous for an applicant to get through that it's going to be, you're really going to have upstanding people, in my opinion. This is just me talking about it, but it's really hard to get through that application process and qualify. You're going to have background checks, and you're going to have to get, you know, they check your bank's accounts and your history and everything. So that was just a little segue since it happened to be on the agenda, and, you know, I'm taking the classes. So with that, I mean, I could give you, you know, more specific stuff. I know we're talking about the 2 biggest things. I see Dean is here too, and she's on the committee, and Bill. and Dan too. I think during the last meetings downstairs, two of the most frustrating things that it seems like clients run into, it's signs and parking spaces, you know, so it usually like, you know, you go to put up a business or you're open a business next to it, and it's like, what size sign? And we pulled up, Christine sent a few of us the amount of sign ordinances and regulations and stuff. It's like a Britannica book, you know, so you got to figure out what zone you're in and this and that. And the other thing, how big the sign can be, what type of sign, can it be backlit, front lit? And then same thing with parking, you know, it's like a little bit difficult to figure out because is it like somebody dropping off at a dance studio your kids, or are they gonna, the parents are actually taking the dance stuff and their cars are gonna be there. So it's a lot to figure out, and I know the guys behind me, the zoning guys, or the planning guys, that's some of the stuff they help figure out. But I think part of the process is that we're working through to make it more identifiable and easy to look at and say, okay, this is the kind of sign I need, rather than I got to filter through all this stuff. I think down the road with AI, as we integrate AI into some of these things, that's going to make life a lot easier too. So anyway, that's my sort of brief presentation, if you will. And if you have any specific questions, or as always, you know, holler out to me if you have people that need some help or looking to do business in our area. I was very impressed with the proclamation, and what great timing. So I look forward to Saturday.
Thank you.
I think if you're nice to Tammy, she'll let you touch it.
Yeah, if we could, I think maybe drill down a little bit on, because you alluded to some of the issues that, you know, applicants were having. What was sort of in navigating the process? If you could sort of elucidate a little bit about what that, you know, the complaints that you had, and then, okay, you had those complaints, what did you do to sort of resolve them?
Right. Well, it was really right in the beginning. The folks that brought concerns to me, I would say almost now they're not concerns anymore. It was basically to do with the learning curve, I guess, if you want to call it. Some of the folks upstairs, and as well as other members that were trying to explain, if you handed somebody a bunch of paperwork, and like your heart almost stops when you get handed this application stuff, that was the frustrating part they were going through. A lot of them were a little bit frustrated because, you know, frankly, we had a lot of the deals with the warehouse going on, and they would go to meetings and then not get heard. So, you know, they were paying their professionals, and then they wouldn't get heard, and they'd have to come back again. And, you know, if you didn't, you know, if you bailed out on it, then you have to repost it in the paper and all that stuff. So they usually wanted to carry it over, and it was costing them a lot of money. So that was when I mentioned some of the people said, okay, I'm going to pause for now. And I think those things are getting worked out, because hopefully the pauses start coming off on some of the developers and builders that are interested in at least approaching the town and doing stuff. That was the main thing. I think it was mainly the learning curve, and that's why I said I think Jim and Dory and the planning board and the zoning board folks have done a good job getting their folks up to speed, and really hearing a lot less of it now. Now it's the ability to just work with new people who want to get moving and do stuff.
Thank you. And then one question I have too, I think you alluded to it, and you know, maybe this is just me being a antitrust lawyer, and you know, I'm dealing with trying to keep markets competitive, but you alluded to that some things you have to keep confidential because the business is sharing that with you, and I'm wondering how you sort of navigate that, where they're sharing, you know, maybe competitive information, but they're seeking sort of township help to probably perfect or exacerbate a competitive advantage that they may have over another competitor. How do you draw the line there? Say, listen, you can share that with me, but I can't necessarily help you get a competitive advantage over another Sparta business using township, you know, ordinances or resources. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, well, I usually, you know, give them my opinion, and ultimately I direct them back up to the folks upstairs. Generally is where they got to start everything. But a lot of times what they're asking is like, do you think my business is, you know, I'm not going to say a beauty salon or something like that. It could be that type of business. Is that's going to be a good fit? And, you know, or should I go to Andover, or should I go to Lafayette, somewhere else? But usually it's not, you know, it's more because they just don't want to know, other people to know, like, okay, I want to start a new business on Main Street and it's a beauty salon. It's more things along those lines. It's nothing, you know, like too dangerous or anything like that. So, yeah, I just work with them. I told them, you know, I won't say anything unless you tell me I can. And then a lot of times I'll even come in with the people when they're going to fill out the application. Sometimes it's even with the construction department, they're having issues that. And I think some people, rightly or wrongly, worry, like, boy, they're going to get mad at me if they hear I was questioning why I didn't get the permit, or I got denied, or it looked incomplete. And then I try to help them that that's not the way it is. When you come in, the folks are really, I hate to use the word lovely, but they really are very professional and helpful. So that was more along the lines of what I meant.
Okay. And of the changes that you recommended, which one are you sort of most proud of, or have seen the most effect from?
Well, I think we're still working on the one with the, and Dan was helpful with it, or is being helpful with it too, with the business development zone, where we actually changed the whole thing instead of maybe just the, you know, business development 1 and 2, we changed the whole thing. So for example, you know, we want to make it like for like, so, you know, if somebody moves out and basically the same thing is going to move back in, you know, whether it's auto parts or whatever it might be, because the whole thing got changed for the whole zone, even from the railroad tracks all the way down White Lake Road and some of those other Wilson and all those, they have to go through the whole hearing process and bring their professionals in. It could take a couple months and a lot of money. I think that one that we're in the process of changing is going to be, that's a big game changer. So that's going to be the biggest helpful one. And I know, like I said, Dan was very helpful with that. And that came out of our business development meeting too. So like for like is going to be a big hit, I think. That's, if you wanted to ask me the biggest one, that's
You're
it.
referring to, I think, the site plan waiver process that is available
Yeah.
for business owners in every zone in Sparta except the
ED zone.
Economic Development
Yeah,
Zone.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
what
That's
the
it, yeah.
Business Development Group is exploring is whether to make the Economic Development Zone have the site plan waiver process
Like,
available.
even if you split it or whatever we got to do, that'll be really helpful, yeah.
Right, and just to be clear, the Business Development Committee doesn't make policy. You know, that
No.
will come before the
We
planning board and
recommend,
the
yeah.
township council.
Yeah, and I think with that.
We
I
recommend
think-
policy, but,
Yeah,
you know.
with that one, it will be, you know, what was the rationale initially? There had to be some rationale for it. What was it?
Or it was an accident, maybe. we
You
don't
know, or was it a? you
Yeah,
know,
it was. I think it wasn't meant to be the way it turned out, because it was probably, you know, along the rail line, it was to, you know, if somebody moved out, did you want another, you know, per se warehouse or a big developer to come in? So it was to at least make them go through the whole process as opposed to like for like. But the rule changed it for everybody, and then, you know, kind of threw a hardship on literally somebody that's moving out as an auto parts and moving
I see.
in, where it's like, you know, it's the same thing, so.
Okay, so
But
I
that's-
see, what
that's-
you- so
that's being
there could
worked
be
on.
smaller businesses, say, as
Yeah,
you said, like a
the
beauty
small-
salon that wants
yeah.
to go in the ED1.
There you go.
Go
Yep.
in the place, you know, should they have to come before the full planning
Right,
board on an application? Am I correct that though Sparta is one of the only townships that you know of that has a site plan waiver process?
As far as I know, yeah.
So in most townships, even if you're like for like, regardless of the zone, you got to file an application with the planning board?
Yeah, that's so far anyone I know of, yeah.
Yeah,
And, I mean, some of them work a little quicker, but you still have to go in front of the whole boards, and that's a huge advantage, so.
know. And they
yeah,
probably don't
well
have the
done.
volume that we have here. It was a big town. you know,
Yeah.
If you're,
Well, that's all the questions I have. I know we have, you know, other
Yes.
folks may want to have some questions. I know Councilwoman Quinn, you may have some, or,
Yeah, and I'm always, I said I'm always available, you know, most people have my cell phone, or you can get me through Jim or any other way, so.
I just want to thank you, because we are incredibly lucky to have somebody here that is incredibly, as equally as knowledgeable as you are, empathetic to the businesses. I've not heard anything but kudos and from businesses and also personnel that have said you are very professional absolutely a joy to work with. And I think the great thing about your position is in many areas, because of your knowledge and also your empathy and your way of working with people, you have a very good ability to kind of diffuse things, because people can get, you're talking about a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of frustration. And I think one of the gifts of having you be this middle person is to diffuse everything and then calmly get everybody through the process through, a dialogue that is productive. And I think that's critical, and that's a tribute to your knowledge and the person that you are as well. And I think it's a great fit. So personally, I just want to thank you for all your time. I know you said before also, and I'm sure it is the case, you're getting calls nights, weekends, anytime that businesses are closed, because that's what's more, that's what's more convenient for them, and you make yourself available. So I just want to say thank you.
No, my pleasure, and thank you, folks, for inviting me tonight.
I have a couple, sorry.
All right.
So thank you for being here and spending the time with us. Appreciate it. Just some questions, some of the things you shared. In terms of getting a feel, how many individuals do you typically work with versus general guidance to the business development committee, would you say? What's the breakdown?
Like weekly or monthly?
Yeah, just generally roughly 50/50, or is it?
Well, it's funny because sometimes of old days, like Sunday when you're watching football or something, I'll get like 5 phone calls. I think I had, well, even tonight before I came here, I had 4, probably 25, 30 people a week. A lot of them are repeats, so it's not all new people. Sometimes they're looking for further explanation, or like Christine said, sometimes you get friendly with them too, where they feel comfortable talking to you, so they'll call. So yeah, it's, and a lot of times, I always tell them, you can text me too. I almost prefer that you text me so I don't have to be on the phone. So I get a lot of text messages.
Just 4 minutes left in the game, please.
Yeah, shoot it back and forth. I can shoot them an email with the websites they have to go to, so it's good. It typically, I think, as Christine was pointing out, you really do develop a relationship with a lot of them, because now you're kind of a confidant, and that you're sort of their helper on the inside. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are all these individuals coming to you through the BDC, or do some of them come separately outside of the BDC?
Yeah, well, a lot. Sometimes they'll refer, like I said, even Andy, for the enforcement guy, he'll tell them. But mostly it's other businesses in the area, like, because somebody will be talking to them saying, gee, you like doing business over there, and they do, and then they're like, well, how do I get started? And then, he'll, instead of them telling them, they're telling them to call me, and then I end up telling them. So it's all good. It works out nice.
Yeah. Does every municipality have this service available, like your services to them?
No,
or?
no. I think, Tam, you helped me. I think we're it, right, over here?
May have one other.
Maybe, okay, yeah. So we're pretty much the big one, yeah. And of course, as we all call, Sparta being the jewel of the county, it's good that you do have somebody, and you have a business development committee, and, the groups that you do have, so.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for being here. Thank you for your extended praise of our employees and the volunteers. It's nice to hear, and I was very happy to hear, because there's been sometimes a misperception out there, as you specifically mentioned, about
No, more
an anti-business perception. I'm so happy to hear that from your experience and all of your thorough working with all these applicants that you don't agree with that, and it makes us happy. And
It's much more good news than not so good
Yeah.
news, I got to tell you. Wherever the bad news is, it's way above us. I don't like to use the word DEP, DOL, or things like that, but that's where it comes off the rails then, so.
I just wanted to thank all of our staff, like you did too, for their hard work, their diligence to sticking to our ordinances and making the process and policies better. And our volunteers, some of them are here tonight, so.
I'm telling you, spend a few minutes upstairs and watch them do their job, and it's, they really.
They're excellent.
really
They're wonderful.
knock it
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
so.
so,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Okay, we are at our first public comment period, but it is limited to items that are not on the agenda. So if you see an item that's on the agenda that you want to talk about, now's not the time. I know there are probably people here who want to talk about the ordinances that will be introduced. Now's not the time to talk about those. So again, this is limited to items that are not on the agenda. And please state your name, and please be mindful of the 5-minute comment period.
Hi there.
Hello, Tammy.
My comments will be short, but I wanted you to be aware, and I'm not sure you're all aware, the Economic Development Partnership had their awards program on Friday, and one of your businesses was an award winner. It was the the Sparta, New Jersey Renaissance Fair. They received the Expansion Award. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. I wasn't sure if you knew that or not, but congratulations to them and to you for helping them through that process, and I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Okay, I'll call up Bruce, and if anyone's ever been out to Camp Sacagawea, it's amazing what he's done out there. And if you are a Lord of the Rings or a Dungeons and Dragons fan, I happen not to be, but even though I'm not, it was still amazing to see what he's done, and it's really cool out there. So I encourage people to take a look at that. Well, congratulations, Bruce, on that.
Excellent.
Anyone else for public comment on an item that's not on the agenda? All right, seeing no one, we'll get to the expenditures. Deputy Mayor Blumetti, would you please read the expenditures for October 22nd, 2024?
Yes, I move that we approve the expenditures for October 22nd, 2024 in the amount of $15,181,320.21.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The expenditures for October 22nd, 2024 have been approved. Next up, we have some ordinances that are being introduced. Again, this is simply an introduction. The hearing will be, assuming if the introduction passes, the hearing will be in a few other weeks. And at that point, there'll be an opportunity for, the public to talk about the ordinance, although you can do so at the public comment period as well tonight. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of Ordinance 2416?
Ordinance of the Township of Sparta permitting cannabis businesses within the township, adding definitions to Section 18-2 of the Township Code, deleting subsection 3 of Code Section 18-4.5.h, prohibited uses, and adopting new sections 18-4.7, 23, 18-4, and permitting the operation of Class 1 through Class 6 cannabis licenses as conditional uses within certain zones in the township.
All right, may I have a motion to introduce Ordinance 2416?
I move that we introduce ordinance 24-16 as was read by the clerk.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could just
Sure.
interject before we do
Sure.
take a vote on that introduction and the council decides whether to
Sure.
introduce or not. But, please note, in terms of the draft ordinance that was provided for 24-16, there are still material areas that need to be addressed in relation to that ordinance. In particular, the specific zones where the commercial enterprises are going to be permitted. We do not have the information as to where the council wishes to permit the commercial activities to be permitted. Also, minimum lot size with regard to at least 4 of the 6 activities. We've incorporated a number in there, but again, that's not something that has been vetted by anyone. And then number 3, the access and setbacks. So there are material areas that are going to require, even if we introduce it tonight, it's going to require an amendment at our next council meeting. And therefore, I just don't want anyone to be surprised that we may not be in a position to have a hearing and a vote at the next council meeting. Hopefully, between now and the next council meeting, we will get the information we need to amend that draft ordinance 2416.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I had made some recommendation. I mean, I think that this was circulated amongst council probably about 2 months ago. And unfortunately didn't get a lot of feedback on the zones, but I know that I've made some recommendations about where I think the zone should be. But we can, so what you're saying is that we can still introduce it, but at the hearing, we'll need to make sure we've come to shore on what the minimum lot size, what the zoning is, and then the setbacks.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
with regard to 24-16, if we do proceed with introduction this evening, it is going to have to be amended at our next meeting, and we're going to have to republish that ordinance because there will be material changes in that particular ordinance.
And am I right that doesn't the CRIM Act, does it have some of this in that, so that we would fill in the actual state requirement for,
Well-
like, for example, setback or minimum acreage, isn't that in the state statute? And so we could just,
Certainly in relation to, for example, schools and daycare centers
Yeah.
and parks, it does.
okay,
So perhaps the biggest issue is going to be, what zones do we want to locate these commercial enterprises?
okay.
So at the point of introduction, this will then go to the planning board for a review of compliance with the master plan. Maybe compliance is the wrong word.
Yes, but it will have to go back again
Understood.
when we make a substantial change,
So my
a
point-
substantial amendment.
Yeah, so, but the point is that would the planning board at that time be able to offer any opinion on that?
They certainly can offer the
Yeah,
feedback
and I think
to the
that may
council.
have been the
Yep.
intent,
That was kind of
actually,
the
and,
intent, yeah.
and leaving it blank is that we knew it would go before the
But start a
planning board.
dialogue.
Yeah, and they could, also, even though we have the final say with the zone, but we would like to get input from our planning board,
Correct.
obviously, about the particular zones.
So we're saying we know it's going to be reintroduced, but in the meantime, we want to send it to the planning board for input.
Well, every
Because there's two types of
zoning
input,
change
right?
goes to the planning board.
So there's two types of input. There's master plan consistency, but then there's a whole nother piece of input that the planning board could offer, right?
Yes,
Because the zones aren't going to be dictated, everything's not going to come from the master plan consistency review.
No,
Right?
this
That's
is,
a bigger picture.
planning board is not going to dictate to you
Yeah,
what
but it
should
could
be done.
recommend.
yeah, they can recommend.
Yeah, especially this is a conditional
Recommendation
use.
will be with regard to whether it is not inconsistent with the master plan, number one, but number two, also, they can recommend their thoughts with regard to zones, lot size, access, setbacks.
Exactly. Well, I do believe that there's a number of edits and revisions that were around for the last week or two that did not make it into these versions here. So I don't know if we want to at least go through those tonight and correct some of those, or we want to do it offline, because there's a number
Well,
of,
you'll certainly want to get those to me, because my understanding
You
is
have
that
them, they
we've
just weren't in here.
incorporated,
yes, a lot of them, I think, were, somehow didn't make it into these final versions that I'm seeing.
When were so I just want to correct something. So Neil, I know you're saying, you just made a comment and said that these were circulated 2 months ago. These were absolutely not circulated 2 months ago.
I have an email
did not-
dated August 22nd.
I'm so sorry.
to all
Why don't
council.
you let me finish before you
Well, I will
speak?
correct an incorrect statement of fact.
Well, maybe you should do that, because all the changes that were made to these ordinances, we did not get until when, Roxanne? Friday? Thursday? The red line version with the orange line version with the changes to the changes to the changes. So you might have sent this originally, but the version we're looking at right now, which, by the way, is not complete, and as Mr. Ryan is pointing out, and so is your colleague Dean, our colleague Dean, these are not quite ready for prime time because of the fact that I have probably personally received, what, Jim, 4 versions of these? With all different changes and all different colors and all different whatever, the most recent of which was last Friday, I believe. Roxanne, is that correct? Last Friday. So these are very comprehensive. It's a huge impact. We already know they're not complete, and they're probably going to need to be updated. I feel like moving forward in this way is just reckless, and I disagree with the approach. I would like to make a motion that we table all of this until we come back, make sure that we can come forward with something that is truly inclusive of everybody's input before we're putting this version, that version, change it, update it, move it, swap it. It makes no sense. The other thing is, I've brought up, and I'm going to read them into the record, because for over a month, I've been bringing up a series of concerns and a series of requests that to date, again, this is over a month, have been ignored. Just completely ignored. And I'll read those into the record tonight. But as far as I am concerned, I have lists and lists of questions. I look in the ordinance, and I believe it says 500 feet from a school. But Chief, correct me if I'm wrong. Don't the signs say, you know, like if you go by a school zone, isn't like a drug not permitted within 1,000 feet minimum of a school? Or is it 500 feet?
I couldn't tell you an honest answer offhand.
I think it's 1,000 feet. So our ordinance falls short of that.
Well, I think that was taken from the actual CRIM Act. So you know, I think that's, yeah, the CRIM Act has its own setback requirements. The CRIM Act is the state statute. So we would be following that one. We're free to make it more than that if we want, but I think the initial thought was to stick with the setbacks in the state statute.
I think the problem, again, is what we're looking at here is not what's best for Sparta, it's what's best for the state. The state has its own guidelines and rules, and they're the same for very, you know, high-density places like Elizabeth, Camden, Newark, Lodi, all these different places, and we're trying to take that and put it here. And it's like taking, in my opinion, a square peg and trying to put it into a round hole. We don't even have a whole inclusive, you know, we don't have these ordinances, in my opinion, ready for prime time. We had promised the public, and you did this, Mayor Clark, you said we were going to have rigorous discussion and dialogue and all of that. We have not had that. We are going from 0 to full throttle by saying, okay, well, we said we want nothing, and now all of a sudden, we're going with all 6. We have not fully discussed even which pieces of this even make sense to move forward with. If we look at the history of the town, if we look at the makeup of the town, if we look at what the town stands for, and if we look at this kind of business, the people making the money, if you do your research, the entity making the money is the state. The state is where all the money's going. The municipalities, I have done extensive research over and over and over again to try to answer my own questions, since no one else seems to be able to answer them or willing to answer them. And the information that you get is not on a municipality level. It also, so first of all, it's very difficult to get that information, what municipalities are actually making money. And also, I've researched again, and looked at, I don't know how many interviews and all kinds of different news sources that basically say it is hugely dependent upon the capacity that you have, so in other words, the density, and also the competition. So, I mean, you have to understand the state's getting, what, 22%? The municipality gets 1% of one thing and 2% of another. So it's no, you know, I don't think anyone's sitting here and surprised that the state wants these things all over the place. They're making a lot of money. But what I think we need to look at is, I don't really care if I'm making the state money. I'm looking at what's best for the town. And I don't think we're in a place to move forward. I don't think our word has been, you're not keeping the word that you gave to say we're going to have these open dialogues and open discussions or anything like that. And I don't think we are ready. I think it is reckless to move forward with so many questions left open, and even the ordinances that we're submitting, we're just throwing them together to get them out there. I don't know what the rush is all of a sudden, but it seems to me like we are just desperate to get this passed, and we're not even taking into consideration even the comments of the council itself, let alone the planning board or anybody else, any of our residents. So I'm going to go on the record one more time as saying, for over a month now, I've been asking a series of questions. I then put this into an email, again, because I got no answers to the questions. I said I would like to see actual statistics, actual data on how much money individual municipalities have made from each category that you guys are recommending. I'm not looking for what the state of New Jersey is making, because I found that, and their margins are grossly higher than those at the municipal level. In addition, there's also benefits through SEI credits that other municipalities are going to get that Sparta is not going to ever get. How does the municipality actually get the money? Because what we know is you have to get staffing in place, and they need to stay on top of each of these entities. So however many businesses you have in each one of these categories, we need somebody from the inside, because we don't have this model other than, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim or Tom, other than with Brain, where we get a royalty fee. We have no other business in town where we get this kind of money from these kinds of transactions. That means you have to now hire somebody. If you're hiring a full-time person, if it's going to require a full-time person, now you're paying benefits, retirement, the list goes on and on and on and on. So I think we need to be very mindful of what we're going to make versus what it's actually going to cost. Also, I totally agree, and I'm interested in what the planning board would say. Personally, moving forward with all 6 of these at the same time, I think is reckless. That's my opinion. I think also we need to look at the zones and their proximity to things like schools, residences, houses of worship, and all kinds of things like that. Because one thing I will tell you is through my research of talking to people in other municipalities, there are big issues with, for example, the smell. I spoke to a parent from Hardison who told me their kids are having trouble in school because all they smell is weed all day long. So these are the realities. Is that what we want here? Because what's the smell police? What exactly is that? In the ordinance, it says, oh, someone's going to be responsible for that. When I was talking to residents over at Station Park about what was going on with the stench associated with AO polymers, for example, one of the things they said was, yeah, well, we would call and complain, but people wouldn't come for 3 days. So of course, in 3 days, there was no more smell there. Well, what happens in this situation? I don't think it's being thought out. The other thing I said is I want clarification for the law in connection with outdoor pot smoking areas where there is retail. The state at one point had approved outdoor areas associated with retail where people could actually use the products they just bought to smoke, vape, or eat the marijuana products. So my question is, you go and you buy it, and then you sit outside and smoke it, eat it, whatever, and then what do? Get in your car and drive home? I don't think that's a good idea, and I think it's something I want clarification on. Also, I would like to see the statistics around quality of life from municipalities that have implemented each of the categories. Because as I mentioned before, I have heard some horror stories about this. I would like to know what is the business model and the impact. So just so everyone is aware, they grow all this in warehouses. It's not greenhouses, it's not outside, it's not a crop. You don't go down the road and see sunflowers and then weed. It's a big, huge warehouse where this stuff is synthetically grown. So you're talking about warehouse uses, and since it's not on the rail, you're talking about trucks. So now you have big old warehouses all over the place, and you have trucks that are now coming in and out to bring it all over the place. So just so we are all talking about the same thing, and we're not just looking at, oh, we're gonna make money. There's no statistics driving exactly what it is we're going to make. Once we get the money for the actual permit, that is the only money you're guaranteed. I also said, so I want to know what the business plan is. If anyone has been by Shearing Plow, you can see the nice, lovely sign that says, we're armed. There's all kinds of fencing. There's stuff that is required by the state, by these businesses. Most of them do have armed guards. I think we need to look into whatever the business plan is. And I think we can look at some of our neighbors who have implemented these things that are now seeing this. Drive by them for yourself and take a look. Fencing, cameras, security guards, equipment, guns. I also would like to see something from the police department regarding projections on the impact, if any, to our EMS infrastructure, phone calls, ambulance, also to include projections and looking at municipalities if there was. I'm not saying there is, but I would like some statistics around upticks in crime rates, DUIs, based on statistical data. I've reached out to several people, some from the state, that have told me that because driving under the influence of marijuana is not illegal, or buying it is no longer illegal, that it's really difficult to track any of that data. But if we're going to be making decisions like this about bringing it here, especially this is what's going to be introduced, I think we absolutely need to make sure that we have are making these decisions based on data and not talking points from the state that's going to make a lot of money from it. Also, the guides for existing cultivation distribution centers away from schools and neighborhoods. And I also brought this up, and I need it clarified again. I want to confirm, I was in open public, I asked the question, and it was confirmed that the state deemed cultivation and manufacturing of marijuana as a use for farmland property. So as I had said, what I see the risk being is that now you have a property, maybe a commercial property, and they say, oh, we're going to deem it farmland, so you can't build anything on it. And then next thing you know, a big, huge warehouse shows up by a company that's manufacturing weed on that now basically farmland assessed property. So the people of Sparta are no longer getting what they would be getting even for commercial use on that property, but the company that's making the weed is making all the money, and so is the state. So I want to make sure that something is built into this ordinance and that we have some kind of confirmation that if, in fact, the state deems manufacturing or cultivating marijuana an agricultural use, that something protects the residents, that they cannot, these facilities cannot be on land that is farmland assessed, because that's just not fair to the taxpayer. In addition to all of these things that I've been bringing up for over a month that have been ignored, I also presented to you information and input from the Municipal Alliance. They're extremely concerned if there's going to be any controls about all of the products that look like candy being sold, if this goes through. So the concern is that many of them look like either gummies or sour worms or things of that nature, and could be, they're very concerned about what that would look like to kids. Also, they're concerned about the smell. They've said they're very worried that there'll be an effect on the students and the faculty if the smell is so significant like it is in other municipalities. Also, concerns around minors and underage consumers. I think, Chief, that's something that's in the law, and just like with alcohol, I'm assuming it would be addressed similar. You have to be the proper age to be able to buy these products. But I think we need some kind of clear protocols. That's what the Alliance is asking for, to make sure that the products are accounted for, and that we have something in place similar to liquor stores where kids aren't going in there and buying it. Also, there's a big concern about things like the gummies, along with some of these drinks that the state has now deemed apparently okay to be sold at gas stations, that now are very easily accessible and very confusing to kids who might not realize the difference. So those are my concerns, along with the concerns of the Municipal Alliance. And at this point, I would like to make a motion that all of this be tabled until we pull it together, get some more statistics, answer some of these questions, and fine-tune these ordinances. So that's my motion that I want to make right now.
Before we do that, I just want to address some of it. I think that first, this idea that it's been rushed along, we brought up that we were going to be considering cannabis probably almost 6 months ago, and we had some representatives from the industry here. We also put it on an unfinished business, new business agenda probably almost a month ago. So I'm sort of at a loss to understand how this is being rushed, or it hasn't been an opportunity to discuss it. I won't address all the things that you said. There's quite a bit that, if you read the ordinance, answers those questions with respect to odor. It cannot be detectable within the premises. There's all kinds of filtration systems that you have to have. So just a simple reading of the ordinance would have found that. Also, my understanding, you do not get a farmstead exemption for cannabis. I don't think you're allowed to do that under the law, so that takes care of that problem. Also, with respect...
Wait a minute, if the state sees it as an
You
agricultural
do not get a
use-
farmland exemption. If you have a farm and you want to have cannabis on it, you don't qualify for the homestead exemption. And so that's been carved out to address that issue. Also, I think an overall point is that the reality of it is cannabis is being sold in Sparta right now. It
Well, it
is.
shouldn't be.
Well, it is, and we have no way to regulate it. We have no cameras. We have all these requirements that are listed in the statute about security measures. There's things that we can make the applicant do. The chief of police, the fire department, they all have a say with that application about what can be required. For example, an applicant could be required to have cameras that feed into the police department so that the police department can see who's going in and who's going out. We can make that a requirement. Right now, we can't do that. And Sparta has witnessed what happens when you have an unregulated market, is what we had. We had a business in Sparta where they were trying to sell over 5 pounds worth of marijuana. And the gentleman who's doing that is now 6 years in the penitentiary. And that happens in an unregulated market. You bring it to regulation, and you have many more eyes on it. So every day that we continue to push this along is another day that we allow unregulated cannabis to be sold in our town. This is a much more, if you're concerned with safety, this is a much more a safer way to do it than to just say, we don't have it, and meanwhile, there's no regulation, and it's coming down the pike. I think people saw that Governor Murphy, they just passed all that any THC-based products will now be regulated. It's this sort of cannabis light, Delta 9, Delta 8, Crampton, which affects the omega receptors. My view of it, and just thinking of it economically, if you have legitimate businesses, it's going to be a lot harder for these non-regulated ones to compete, and likely they will go away. And we'll have actually a regulated business where we have many more eyes on it. So I think it's the safer thing to do, and that's particularly why I'm pushing it. I think it's a safer way for this township than what we have under the existing regime. And it's here, like it or not. So, you know, it was legalized, you know, in 2021. We have Andover has it, Jefferson has it, and, you know, sort of the parade of horribles that you hear. Well, you can just go over to Jefferson and see. It doesn't look like it's turned into a pothead hellscape ever since they've allowed it, nor has Andover, nor has Newton. And so I think that some of these things, and also I do encourage people, I've looked at some of, you know, the data. If you look at, and you have to compare municipalities that have passed the ordinance and others that have not. A good one to look at is in Colorado, where some municipalities opted in, some didn't. Well, they did, you know, they had a study, not by some industry, not by someone pro-cannabis. No, these people with the Urban Economic Journal found that crime actually went down by 2.9%. Now, why would that be? Well, the reason why is you no longer have a black market. You have now light. You have a transparent market, and so there's not that need. There's also another study just out that showed that actually, and it was done in New Jersey, that cannabis retail actually increases property values by 2.9%. And so there's data out there if people, and so you know, I think in some of these questions are answered by the ordinance itself, but my main point is regulating this market is a safer thing for Sparta to do. Keeping it unregulated means we're going to have our kids getting through the gifting ordinance that happens at some of these, you know, ones that sell Delta 8, through the gift. This has a gifting prohibition. People right now are able to go in those places and through the gifting loophole, get cannabis. If you regulate it, it shuts that down. And so to me, it's a safer way to handle this. And so that's why
We
I'm
could
pushing it.
regulate that without doing all of this, first of all. And second of all, if I'm listening to your argument, it says, well, you know, hey, they're already doing it illegally, so we might as well just open up the flood doors so everyone can do it. I mean, rather than taking care of the business or two that is doing it illegally, let's just open up the floodgates. How does that make sense? I'm not understanding how that makes
I don't think opening the
sense.
floodgates is
Well,
two
this is
businesses.
this is
I'd like
six
to make a point of order.
classes.
Could we conduct this more like a Robert's Rules, where we all get a chance to weigh in without devolving into a free form, talking over each other?
I think that's a good idea. Dan, you can go.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of points. Number one is Sparta is not here to make a profit. That's not what we do. Any taxes that we collect are used to offset our expenses, and and we try to keep our taxes low. So any taxes that are generated, this will be used to regulate, inspect, and make sure everything is all the businesses are operating in accordance with the land use laws. The other thing is, I think this align very much with our processes. We, on August 22nd, as we noted, the mayor and manager solicited from all the council members feedback and with some sample ordinances. I provided mine within a couple of days, and maybe others have, and that's why you've seen a couple of edits to the ordinance, because as people provide their comments, those comments were circulated a couple of times. And so, and if you look at the comments, while there's a lot of edits in the document, it didn't materially change very much at all. It's still very readable. And so I would encourage you to, again, you can pick any document you want and provide edits, your comments on it, and that could be funneled through the mayor and the manager and the council, and we can make those updates. And then, as we said, this was discussed a couple of times in public session, and although I was away and missed, I think I've only missed 2 meetings in the 6 years I've been here, but I missed that one on September 10th. That was an open public discussion of this where all of us could have weighed in on. So I think we've had plenty of opportunities to provide input into this process. I also think it is not unfair that we introduce something that's not perfect. And it gets it into the ecosphere. It gets the public a document that they can read and digest and come with comments at the hearing. It also gets into the hands of the planning board. I've had a number of conversations with the planning board chair and the previous chair before the current chair. And every time a discussion of cannabis came up, there was a catch-22 where the planning board was stuck. We passed an ordinance, the council passed an ordinance in 2021, I believe, making all cannabis businesses, all 6 classifications of cannabis businesses, not allowed within Sparta. And so the planning board couldn't bring up any issues with that because they were bound by the council saying, you can't talk about it, so they couldn't talk about it. By introducing this now, this just starts a conversation. We can have the conversation with the planning board as they look at their master plan compliance. I'm using the wrong word. It's not a compliance, it's a consistency review. And again, solicit input on the zones, maybe in the number of businesses and anything else they want to solicit input on. The council could be part of that discussion, and we can ask questions and have a nice dialogue. And then at the next meeting, we have some more input into this thing. Maybe it's tighter, and we can change it again. And we can have a discussion and introduce more changes, and that's the deliberative process. I think that's how the sausage making should work in public. I don't believe in, I'm an agile project manager. I don't believe in trying to get it perfect the first time. I believe in iterative development, and I believe we should iterate this until everybody's comfortable with it. And it's okay not to be perfect going out the board. And to me, it's okay to have a couple of holes in it. We can fill in those holes in the next 2 weeks. So those are my comments.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I have similar comments, and I do agree that this has been going on for 2 months, mentioned probably a well amount of time before that. And there has been a few versions because of input. I do think that Councilwoman Quinn, I think I would say maybe 80% or 90% of your questions or concerns, from my perspective, are probably addressed either in the ordinances or the state law. I think that the revenue, as was mentioned, may not or is likely not an overriding priority. So I agree there's not great numbers around. So if we're going to do this because of revenue, I think that's a mistake. I think that we need to commit to a process, though. We need to commit to, if we're going to edit ordinances, we need to put our thoughts and comments into an ordinance for others to then help construct it together and have that kind of process. And if there's outstanding questions, we need to figure out who they need to go to, right? Are they questions for our town manager or for the rest of the council? Or are they questions for the attorney? Whatever outstanding questions that need to be answered are well-intentioned, then we need to figure out who has to answer those, though. I think in terms of the staff, I'll address that one comment. I think the way it's written now, it looks like there's a maximum of 7 businesses at the most across all these classes. So, and the burden, any requirement is on them when they file their taxes to pay the extra 2% tax or 1% in one case. So I think I definitely don't see us needing staff and having to take on extra costs in that regard of personnel. I think there are, if we're going to send it if we're going to introduce it and approve that tonight, it's solely to then allow the planning board, I think, to collaborate, right, provide input, because we can make a couple amendments tonight, but I think there will be obviously a need to reintroduce this, the way I'm seeing it, right? I mean, even just based on the footprint, there's blanks in here, there's some things that, there's inconsistent in here that are close, but I think we need to just iron those out. So I'll just leave it at that. I mean, there's probably a lot of comments we can go on for, but that's kind of where I stand now.
I think Councilwoman Quinn made a motion to table,
Unless there's any more comments.
unless there's any more comment, but I think there's a motion to table that needs a
I
second.
just want to say one more thing. With regard to input and feedback, if you guys remember, when you guys started talking about, oh, we have this and that and the other thing, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, even you were saying, oh, wait a second, she didn't get those. Remember? You had to send me updated ones because there were like 3 or 6 different sets flying around, and I didn't have them until you sent them to me. So while you guys might have had them, I did not have them, and Jim was nice enough to finally send me a version. Then I got another version on Thursday or Friday, which was marked up yet again. So, Neil, I don't like your inquisition or your accusation, oh, well, read the ordinances. I've read them about 75 times, and it's almost impossible to follow along when I'm looking at a piece of this and a piece of that, and then I get here, I look Friday night, and half the data's not even in here. So I just want to say, I've done an incredible amount of research on this, and I would say, no, the questions that have been asked and brought up have not been answered, and until they are, I can't give the rest of the feedback for this document because I need answers to those questions before I can look. For example, I just asked the chief, hey, doesn't the sign say no drugs within 1,000 feet of the school? Well, the ordinance, I believe, says 500. So that to me is a conflict right away. I need confirmation on that. We should have confirmation before it goes in. It's fine. My motion stands. I think that we're not ready for this, and I think that we need more discussion. So yes, my motion is to table it.
So we have a motion to table 2416. Do we have a second? Hearing no second.
Actually, I'll second the motion to table it. And then we can vote on the tabling.
Okay. So
So
we have,
the alternative is, if we don't table it, is to
Right, but we'll
discuss
vote on the tabling.
edits? Okay.
I think Chris's motion should be, Councilwoman Quinn's motion should be heard.
okay.
Should be voted on.
So we have a motion to table or ordinance 2416. And we have, I think we should do it as a roll call.
Roll call, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, a legal question?
Sure.
If this gets introduced tonight, maybe with some changes, goes to the planning board for consistency review and feedback, input, comes back, gets reintroduced, it will have to go back to the planning board again for consistency review once
Yeah.
again?
Correct.
Okay.
So we have we're going to vote to table.
Yeah, we have a vote to table.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello.
No.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
No.
Mayor Clark.
No. Okay, the motion to table has been denied, and so now we have a motion to introduce ordinance. Well, we introduced it already, I thought, and we had a second, did we not?
Yes, you have yes, now you're just going to the vote on the
Yeah,
underlying.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And so we have, may I have a roll call vote?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to make amendments
Okay.
before we vote.
So you want to make amendments now, even though we know it's going to be amended later? Are these so pressing that you have to have them right now, or do you want to add them?
No, they're material.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go through a couple of them. On page 2 of, sorry, this is ordinance 2417, licensing.
Well.
We haven't introduced that.
2416.
Yeah, it has to be amendments to
Oh, boy.
2416.
Okay.
So if we make a motion, if we make any amendments now that are material, we would set it back to the beginning. We'd reset the whole process for the next meeting.
Well, he can make a motion to amend. If the motion is defeated, then again, we go back to the original motion.
Right, but if the motion passes, then we have to reintroduce it at the next meeting with the changes, if they're material.
We can introduce as, we're just introducing as amended. We can introduce as.
If the amendments are material, would it have to be reintroduced at the next meeting, is the question?
If we amend tonight,
We meant tonight.
it will be introduced.
Again.
Tonight, again at the next meeting, along with the other changes that are.
Okay, so if we make any amendments tonight,
You reset it back to 2 weeks.
we can't,
That's
we
the
can't
whole
pass,
point.
we
You
can't
reset
approve
it anyway.
introduction?
Correct.
No, I'm sorry, you can introduce the ordinance as amended tonight. But once it is introduced and material changes are subsequently made, then we have to reintroduce it.
At the next
with
meeting.
the new changes that may be presented at the next meeting. But if you amend it this evening, you can introduce it as amended.
Right. So either way, at the next meeting, we're introducing it again.
No,
Yes, we're going to have to reintroduce this again because of those gaps.
Can I ask it
with
differently?
regard to
I understand what you're
Can I
saying
ask it
now.
differently? If we make amendments tonight and approve the amended ordinance, is that introduced technically, and can we send it to the planning board?
Yes,
Okay, so we don't have to do it again next meeting?
no.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yeah, I think the
Yes.
confusion was that you said your changes were material. And so it's the materiality that is, you can, right, we can make amendments, but if they're material amendments, we can't even say that it's approved as amended because it's,
Well, remember, tonight is just the introduction, so we can make material changes to it and introduce it tonight as amended. It's when we get to the hearing and the final vote.
Got it,
If we
okay.
make material amendments, we've got to step back and reintroduce it.
And I think your point is, we know we're going to make material amendments because there are some blanks in here.
Correct.
So it's a given that this is going to go through at least one more iteration.
That's correct.
It's almost unavoidable. Unless Councilman Blumetti fills in all the blanks.
That's correct.
No pressure.
I can't do that alone.
So is there a motion to amend
So-
24-16?
Yes,
Okay.
and I could explain for this ordinance what they are. So page 4, it's around the number of licenses that are included. So page 4, number 1A.
Yes.
So it talks about the number of licenses. It does not mention delivery, which I believe that was the intention, is to have a delivery license, but also it mentions a total of 1.
Well,
Can I
I'm
ask,
sorry,
a-
just if we
actually,
could
can I
just-
ask a point of order? Can I interrupt for a point of order? Are we talking about the what am I trying to say? The merits of the ordinance at this point?
No.
I thought, so that's, we're not talking
We're
about,
not arguing the merits.
we're not talking about policy, but by introducing these specific changes, isn't that, in effect, changing the policy?
Well, I would say no. I mean, that can be a determination of the council. But I would just want to alert Councilman Blumetti to the fact that 23, subparagraph 1, addresses cultivation, manufacturing, wholesale, and distribution, but 23, subparagraph 2, on page 6, addresses the cannabis retailer and cannabis delivery.
yeah, so that's why you don't see distributor there. It's treated in a separate.
Okay, that was separated out, okay.
Yep.
So that's 2A. Okay, well then, we have under cannabis retailer and cannabis delivery, it says there shall be a maximum of 2 total cannabis retailers and no 0 cannabis delivery services. Page 5, right, 2A.
Well, 2A, and because unfortunately, indeed, some have gone back and forth, but I'm looking at my copy, and I've got 1 cannabis delivery service business.
It's
Too bad these copies don't have a date stamp.
Okay.
So is your motion to amend to add delivery, is that what you're asking? Because you don't see it on, I know that was
Yeah, that's-
the intent was to
I
have.
believe that was the
a
intent from all the
class.
feedback, and I
Yeah.
just want the planning board to understand that.
Okay.
Now, if,
That was in the version that I reviewed,
The red line copy that
but the
you're-
version I reviewed online over the weekend did not, also had 0 for delivery, as is the copy that I'm holding right now has 0 for delivery. It
Yeah.
seems like yours does not, so either yours is an older or newer version of it.
I suspect mine's a newer version of it.
Okay, so we're not all singing from the same page in the hymnal. So since this has to be, my recommendation would be, since this has to be reintroduced anyway with some blanks filled in, I would be economical with changes now, because we're not going to have to make changes later.
Do you want to continue through your questions? I will make note of all of them.
okay.
So one cannabis delivery service will be included.
Yeah, I believe that was the intention. That should be
Yes,
throughout.
I
Okay,
agree.
Okay. So I think that would be it for this in terms of items for tonight that I think should be in this
Okay.
version. So that's the motion, unless it's in there, but that's the motion that I'm making
So
for
is that,
this.
is that a change if it's in your copy?
Yes, it is a change because it's not in the copy that
Okay.
that is before.
Okay,
the
I'm not
council
saying that
this
that's the ideal solution we wind up in. I just want to make sure
Okay.
the planning board has what the,
So the
thinking was.
motion to amend is to include under, on page 6, 2 subparagraph, capital A, one cannabis delivery service.
yes.
Is there a second?
Before we make a second on that, can I ask, can a business do both? Can a retail business have a delivery service?
Yes,
They would count as one license or two?
that would be one business having 2 licenses.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend 2416
23? I thought it was 23 dot,
and
dot 2 dot A.
23.2.a to add delivery service.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Quinn,
No.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, motion to amend has been approved. Do you have any other, no other,
That's all,
anyone?
that's all for the zoning for me,
Okay.
for now.
All right, so we now need a motion to introduce 2416 as amended. And so may I have a motion to introduce 2416 as amended?
I move that we introduce 24-16 as amended.
May I have a second, please?
I will second.
Madam
Before we go to a
Clerk?
vote, I just want to say, this might seem weird to people watching. I think this is healthy. I think having us together and talking about, kibitzing over a document together and talking about policies and changes, in the light of day with everybody, it might, like I said, it might seem awkward to people. It doesn't seem awkward to me at all. I think this is healthy, and I'm happy to participate in this democratic process. Now you may vote.
I want to also say, you guys are okay with moving forward with all 6 of these things at the same time? Not doing due diligence, trying one thing, it's 6 or none, 6 or nothing, all this at the same time?
Well, I also remind Councilwoman Quinn that in the ordinance, there is, I don't know if it's in this one, but it's in one of the collection, there is another governor in that any business that wants to apply for a license must do so before the council. And that was one of my questions I was going to have, but I don't know if it's appropriate here before it's introduced, that I don't know what latitude the council has for pausing or not voting on a license. But I think my understanding of it is we're certainly able to say, I'm not going to issue a license, and because we want to pause whatever process for a while. So my point is that there's a governor in place on this process if we need to use it. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. However, if certainly an applicant, the first in line, has met all of the criteria, there would have to be a substantive basis for denying.
Well, that's another one of my questions. Anything that's subjective means there better be some good criteria, otherwise we're going to get sued. So if there are people that come in, I'm assuming this would follow pretty much the protocol when we get vendor bids and things of that nature, right? So there's all these rules, but I mean, how does the council pick one business over another business without risking them saying, well, you just didn't like me or whatever? Like, what are the actual criteria? We're building them ourselves?
Well, the actual criteria is set forth in some detail in the ordinances themselves, but it literally will be based upon a first come, first serve, first one who comes with a completed
Is an automatic
application.
approval?
That person does not get automatic approval. They would have to come before the council. They would have to present their application before the council. If indeed their application meets all the criteria, then, yeah, the responsibility of the council would be articulating a substantive basis for denying it. But then also remember, it's a conditional use application. So then, in addition to the council, they would have to go to the planning board and make an application.
So under what criteria would the council be able to say no? If the first application that comes
If they
in,
don't meet the criteria that are spelled out in the ordinances.
but that would mean that would be defined in the application process.
Yeah, that's correct. The municipal clerk will be going through the application, and it will have to comply with all of the criteria that's provided for under the ordinance. Also remember, in fact, the first hurdle that a commercial enterprise has to get over is they must be licensed by the state. So you have to deal with the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, and they cannot come to us unless they at least have conditional approval there. And then in order to get final approval by the township, they have to have final approval and licensing by the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission.
So another thing I want to make sure that everyone is aware of, and I want to just validate that this is still, I know there've been some changes, but initially, the state in their legislation said it is a 5-year opt-in minimum. So in other words, if we go full force with all these 6 things, you are locked into that for 5 years. You cannot tell a business,
municipality
if
is
it's
making
not
a
working
5-year
out,
commitment.
right, if it's not working out or something's not going well, we are locked in to all these things for a minimum of 5 years. Right?
And then, once we start this conversation, the planning board might look at this and say, something maybe you want to consider, this zone is okay, but this zone is okay. And something, now that I've looked about it, this class X doesn't really fit anywhere. And then, since this is not finalized yet, we have another opportunity to say, based upon planning board input and public input and our own input, maybe we can remove one of these things if we want to. So I think we still have plenty of time to make it perfect.
So then I want the planning board, the members of the planning board to understand the depth and breadth of flexibility you're going to have in reviewing this. So in addition to, it's not just going to be, oh, does it match? Is it something that's in line with our existing master plan? And it's not just going to be, where do we shove these things based on the criteria in the ordinance? You're going to also have the ability to come back and say, that does not fit in Sparta. Like, we cannot find a place, or maybe this is not, we do not feel that this is a good use of master plan, whatever it is. So you have a lot of latitude, other than just saying, does it meet and fall in line with, or is it in conflict with the master plan? And what zones would you recommend it goes in? it's not just a question that goes in that direction, because you might come back and say, there is no zone this goes in. This might be okay with the master plan, but this is not. So just so that we are being very clear on the expectation of what we're asking from the planning board. We're not asking you to go take this and retrofit and shove it in and make it work. We want your honest input and feedback about all of it. So just want to make sure we're
The
clear.
planning board could say, I'm not in a position to give you that information, your serve, and then we deal with it.
But ultimately, it is a decision of the township.
Right.
Yep.
Right, I get that, but it's very important to me to get information from these other boards,
Oh, yeah.
and so I want to make sure that they have a good understanding of what they can come back with.
I respect that as well, that I think the planning board's day job is what gets built where, and I respect what they do and look forward to their input.
All right, so we have a motion to, we've got a first and a second, do we not, for 2416 as amended? Okay, so
Yep.
now we just
Now I
need a
think we
roll
can
call vote.
Councilwoman Quinn.
No,
Councilman Chiarello.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, 2416 as amended has been introduced.
That was easy.
Next up is 2417. Madam Clerk, could you please read ordinance 24, the title of ordinance 2417?
Ordinance adopting a new Chapter 8 entitled Cannabis License Requirements of the Code of the Township of Sparta to add municipal licensure requirements for cannabis facilities.
Okay. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2417?
I move that we introduce 2417 as it was read by the clerk.
Okay, may I have a second, please?
I will second.
And Madam Clerk, do you want to, sure.
Yeah. And I would like to say too that it is hard to do this without input from everyone, and we haven't gotten input at all from one council person. I don't know how that's going to work out later on, but under licensing, and again, I want to get this to the planning board for input, so I have I'm going to make a motion for two amendments for the licensing ordinance 2417, page 2, section 8.1. Actually, it starts at the very bottom of page 1, number C. Again, same issue, maximum number of licenses. It talks about 5 of the classes, and I think for now, at least, we want to get that 6th class, which is delivery, included there.
Is delivery handled in a different section?
No, it does need to be corrected and included in there.
Okay.
And then I'll do them together, I believe, or I could do these separately. Let's do it
Mayor.
separately.
Yeah.
Maybe
Why don't you do it
separately,
separately?
maybe the second one's a
Want
little
to
bit different.
do amendments separately, or?
I would do them all at once, otherwise we're going to have that, motion to amend and go back. Just why don't you get all your changes down that you
Okay.
want?
So the second one, and last one for now, is page 3, at the bottom. It's number 4, application review and approval conditions, letter B, as in boy. So upon reading this now, it seems that the application, my understanding is the flow comes in for a new license. It goes out for comment and review by the chief of fire, chief of police, zoning officer, health officer, township manager, and other officials as deemed appropriate. They provide responses within a month, basically. Then it comes in back. Then it seems like this. It goes next to the planning board for site plan approval and conditional use approval based on our ordinances. Then it seems like it comes back.
No, I thought that you missed a step.
To the township
In
council.
4B, the clerk in consultant with the township manager makes recommendation to the council for consideration at an upcoming regular meeting.
The approval,
Yeah, but up here, after receiving notice, the applicant has received all applicable site plan approvals and variances, including conditional use approval. So that first part of B references planning board approval. Then it looks like it comes back for final council approval. Am I reading that correctly?
After receiving responses pursuant to paragraph A of this subsection, and after receiving notice that the applicant has received all applicable site plan approvals and variances, including conditional use approval per the township code.
So somewhere before that sentence,
Seems like we were missing a step.
there's a step missing, yeah.
I'm only thinking that why put this through the cost for the applicant, for the township, taking a planning board time, if the council is not in favor or hasn't prioritized or this hasn't met our criteria.
Okay, so you're describing it, so it goes out to our internal professionals, managers. Then it comes to the council, who will provide conditional approval depending upon the approvals from the planning board. Is that the process you're?
You're saying the planning board comes before the council or after the council?
Well, as it currently reads,
Right.
it comes before the council.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we have to, we don't want to approve something that our planning board hasn't had a chance to look at. And so the sequence of events is that the application comes in, then township officials weigh in, obviously to see if it's a complete application, right? Then other folks, the police officer, zoning officer, et cetera. Then it goes, after they've had to review, it goes to the planning board. And then the planning board gives it back to us because saying, yes, it's approved or not approved.
So.
And then we don't weigh in on it until after the planning board has had its say of the application. Because there would there'd be no sense us approving it.
I
Is
think
that
it's,
what you're
it's implicit in
describing?
here. It's not explicit.
It's not explicit. I think it was more explicit earlier. So it just says after receiving responses pursuant to the paragraph A.
And that's from the
So,
And
the
then,
internal
yeah.
prevention.
and after
professionals.
receiving notice that the applicant has received all applicable site plan approvals, so that implies that they got the site plan approval from the planning board.
yeah,
Correct.
so if the chief of police, chief of fire, health officer, township manager has received that feedback and does not deem it appropriate to go to the planning board, I'm just saying that should be probably spelled out here.
You mean if the police chief is not satisfied or provides
Right, if any of those officers.
negative
Any of those,
feedback,
yeah.
then it would not go to the planning.
Yeah, the way it's written, it seems like it's routed to the planning board without any kind of filter in there. And that's the way I'm reading it. If others are reading it as
Well,
it's implied, that's fine.
Well, let's just talk about that. I mean, so are you suggesting that each of the individuals cited in subparagraph A would have veto power over an application?
No, not,
They would provide comments.
they probably provide comments.
Yeah, and
So
recommendations, it
they would
says.
provide comments and recommendations.
Yep.
And then with those comments and recommendations collected, the applicant
30
would
days.
then go to the planning board
Yep.
for conditional use approval. And then the third step would be, they would come to the council.
I think it's in here. I think it's just,
Yeah, and
No,
I'm
you
just-
take it into consideration. It doesn't, you wouldn't be on legal authority to have the police department have veto power, as Mr. Ryan said. The point of the notice provision is so that
These
township
officials
officials
provide
can weigh in, and then planning board can hear the recommendations of that and take that into consideration when they do conditional use approval.
Yeah,
So that-
indeed, receipt of all site plan approvals are required before council consideration.
And also, the planning board gets to
I think it's
hear
on here.
what the zoning officer, what the chief of fire says.
That's
what the health, and planning board takes that into consideration and will, grant or deny conditional use approval based upon other, among other things, the responses and statements of the chief of police. So I don't see a need to add some additional step. It's kind of built in there.
yeah, I think it's all there. It just might not be as explicit as you were hoping, but
Yeah, it's not explicit. I think in the earlier version, there was another section in here that talked about criteria and a ranking.
what if you just add the words site plan approval from the planning board? Now it's more explicit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
Well,
pretty clear.
you can, let me just read it. and this is subparagraph B, after receiving responses pursuant to paragraph A of this subsection, and after receiving notice that the applicant has received all applicable site plan approvals and variances, including conditional use approval per Sparta Township Code Section 18-4.7C22, the township clerk, in consultation with the township attorney and township manager, shall forward the application along with all related comments and recommendations to the township council for consideration at an upcoming regular meeting.
I think it's clear.
It just seems like as long as we're comfortable collectively that will there be a case, are we okay with a case going through this, going to the planning board, getting approved, coming to the council and having it be denied?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that's,
mean, yeah, of course that could happen.
yeah, I mean, we're the ultimate authority, and I think that, there's also a provision in here that the township council can require additional measures beyond those set forth in this section.
In C. Yep.
Yeah, and so if we, for example, I think I alluded to it earlier, any type of security plan that I would like to have would be requiring a retailer to have, in addition to the cameras that they have, I would want that feed to be available to our police department at any time, so that they could, if they wanted to, see who and what is going on at the retailer. That's not something that's in the actual, you don't need to build it into the ordinance, you can build it into your condition for application approval. So it doesn't need to be in the ordinance, but these are certain things that we can talk about. But that's further down the road when you actually have a real application in front of you, which we obviously don't have at this point.
Because every case would have some nuances that you might want to build in
Exactly.
additional requirements. I think it's.
Yeah, I mean, the only other way to do it would be to put a step in there that the council, whether there's a set of criteria or a ranking, unless it's first come, first serve, and everything goes through.
So the issue is, do you think that an amendment to the provision you spoke about is necessary, but having had it explained, are you willing to withdraw your?
Or can we vote on both separately?
I'll withdraw it for now, meaning I want to get it to the planning board, but I may want to revisit it next time.
Okay.
Because,
I would also just note in subparagraph B, subparagraph I, it reads, if the township council receives more applications than there are available local licenses for a particular class of cannabis business, the township clerk shall maintain a waiting list of additional applications that have been submitted in complete form to the township clerk's office. I don't know if that,
yeah, no, I did read that. I think that's a good idea. It was mentioned a little while ago that we may want to pause or take our time with certain uses, right, certain classes, not all at once, or we may want to pace ourselves and see how it's going. This does not allow that, or it allows it, but it puts an applicant through the whole process and has to come back and say, well, we're not ready for, I'm making it up, a wholesale, because we have the other four already in place, and we're going to see how it goes. So, I mean, there's just that consideration about, does the council want to weigh in earlier on? I'm okay withdrawing it for now, if we want to think about it.
I don't believe there's simply because you're adopting this process and these licenses, I don't believe it imposes upon the council an affirmative obligation to approve or to fulfill all of the classes that have been created. So if the council, in its wisdom, decides it does not want to grant a wholesale license, then I think you can put a pause on it. I mean, ideally, that would be communicated at the outset, and
Before they incur expense.
the administration would be.
Okay, that's what I'm concerned, you hit it there, but that's what I want to make sure that we don't let this come all the way through, months and months of work, have it come back to us and say, you know what, we're not ready yet for wholesale. But as long as it's triggered up front, at that first step, I think that covers the concern.
Okay.
So we're only voting on the one.
I'll withdraw the second motion.
delivery.
Just the
Can I-
first.
Can I ask one question with all these ordinances as well? There are different states, one comes out particularly in my mind, where they started with marijuana and then added to it, things like mushrooms and other products. If the state decides to change its mind or expand its ordinance to include those other things, what rights, under these ordinances right now, the ones that you're talking about, is there anything that protects us to say it's just it's just cannabis? So if the state goes and says, oh, we're going to expand it to include hallucinogenics or whatever they might do, like, and other states have done it.
This is certainly limited to
Okay,
cannabis.
I just want to make sure that in all three of them, we are protected if the state changes its mind.
Yes.
Okay.
It's limited indeed to cannabis.
All right, thank you.
So we voting on your?
Motion
We have
to
a
amend.
motion to amend 2417,
I'll second it.
and all those, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Quinn.
No.
Councilman Chiarello.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, so ordinance 2417 as amended, or the amendment is adopted. We now need to have a motion on 2417 as amended.
I move that we approve or introduce ordinance 24-17 as amended.
Okay, may I have a second, please?
I will second.
May I have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Quinn.
No.
Councilman Chiarello.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, so ordinance 2417 as amended is introduced. Next up is the taxing one, which is 2418. Madam Clerk, could you please read ordinance 2418?
Ordinance amending Chapter 2 entitled Taxation and Revenue of the Code of the Township of Sparta to add new sections 2-62 and the following, setting forth a cannabis tax.
All right, may I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2418?
I move that we introduce ordinance 24-18 as was read by the clerk.
May I have a second, please?
I will second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call?
Discussion?
Any discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Quinn.
No.
Councilman Chiarello.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. 2418 is introduced. We have no hearings of ordinances tonight. Next up, we have our second public comment period. However, this one, I apologize, is limited to resolutions. So again, look at paragraph 9 of your agenda. Those are the resolutions that are on tap for tonight, and if you have a public comment related to those, please do so at this public comment period. It will be the last public comment period that you're allowed to speak on something that's not on, that's on the agenda. So anyone, public comment with respect to the resolutions? See no one. Like to take a couple of these en masse because they're perfunctory. May I have a motion to approve resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-3, and 9-5?
If someone that wants to speak, Neil.
Did someone? What? Again, it has to do with the resolution, so is it?
These are for the ordinance.
Okay, you'd have to wait till the final public comment period. Yeah, this is only the public comment with respect to resolutions. Okay, so the motion was to approve resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-3, and 9-5. So may I have a motion to approve resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-3, and 9-5?
I move that we approve resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-3, and 9-5.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-3, and 9-5.
Oh, police cars. It's vehicles. It's safe.
All right. Next up, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-4, which is a resolution to approve best practices inventory questionnaire?
I move that we approve resolution 9-4.
May I have a second, please?
I will second. I
And
have some comments.
Okay. First off, I just want to hear from Mr. Zepp. What is the best practices inventory questionnaire, and why are we being asked to vote on? This is just to inform the public of what this is.
Sure thing. The best practice inventory questionnaire is an annual survey mandated by the DCA that basically establishes publicly that the township is practicing all the law practices that are required in various areas of operation. And they also have an area in there surveying the status of other activities that we may be doing. Quickly, some of the topic areas are affordable housing, lead remediation, budgeting practices, procurement practices, whatnot like that. Sometimes the questions will be duplicative from the previous year. We had done this last year and the prior years. Usually the CFO is the official who does most of this. This year, they added that the clerk would get involved, that the clerk gets a chance to review the questions, and then they are submitted to the DCA, and then the state aid formula is based on a score that we are adhering to most of the diligent laws and practices, and that's what this is. And I apologize I didn't get the survey out to you guys earlier, but the deadline to submit to the state is the 25th, so we have time to do that. I shared that with you guys. Some of those questions are challenging, I would say, and we had to do our due diligence on making sure we got everything covered correctly. But I'm happy to say that we qualified for the full state funding with our current practices.
Okay, just a question I have. I know, and you and I exchanged some emails about that. There was answers that we gave on here that seemed inconsistent, I guess, that, there was some, for example, we had one about, whether we post labor agreements on the website. The margin area said no, but the answer either said NA or yes. And so my question is, given that there's some discrepancies here, can we approve this tonight, and then be able to go back and change the answer so there's consistency along the lines that I had pointed out?
Yes.
Okay.
And because I said we haven't done the submission yet, and you know what? Normally the council just gets a chance to peruse the questionnaire as it is, but we can make those changes. And I have to admit, some of the questions are very ambiguous. They're difficult to answer because it's just not a yes or no answer. They give you leeways on the NA, whether it's applicable or not. The questions are multifaceted. It's not an easy questionnaire. So you really have to follow through with it. Some of them require comments, as you see in there. But we're getting through it. Most of it is pretty straightforward, but there are some other ones that are more difficult. And some of those, like the affordable housing questions, there's no weight on them at all. They're more of a interest survey for the state to just get a feel for what the townships are doing. So, but we haven't submitted yet, so we can make changes on anything you guys see on that.
Okay, so that was a basic question is, if we approve this resolution tonight, our answers are not in stone tonight, because we can change those answers later.
Absolutely. The resolution itself, though, says that you guys have had eyes on it, and I think that is what the purpose of the resolution is, and obviously you have. So we've met the resolution, and that's what that's about. But to take it the next step, of course, I welcome your guys' input on the answers themselves and the follow-up. That's not a problem.
Okay, so I think if any council member has questions or thinks there's an answer may be incomplete or not consistent, they should let Mr. Zepp know, and then those can be changed, because the answers that you have in front of you are not set in stone tonight. We're not approving the answers. We're mainly just saying that we looked at the resolution or at the inventory questionnaire.
Or can we just go through any questions we have now and modify, get a verbal approval to modify it and then just approve it?
Sure.
I mean, is that scenario two, if we're going to
Well,
I
sign off
happen
on
to
it?
have them right here.
These are administrative practices?
Not all of them. Some of them are,
Some of them were just, the
Policy.
answers were just not clear, or the answer was, not consistent with the question.
We had multiple people involved in these questions, so, and it was sort of last minute. We had a lot of other items we were getting to.
so I don't know what the preference is, then do we want to? Is there a preference either?
I think
from
what you
Jim or
want to do
Tom?
is present perhaps some questions to Mr. Zepp, and he can respond
Want
to
to try to do
them.
it now, or is that,
I have it in front of me if
Okay.
it's easier for you.
sure, I know you have three, Neil's three, I think you have, right? I think I saw a response already by email.
I did, I thought both
Yeah,
you
those are
guys had
fine,
yeah.
sent me the
I don't
questions,
think we need to
and I
go
thought I
over 'em.
answered them.
So I didn't see mine, Jim. Did you respond? I know it was this afternoon, but.
We
have
are
a-
having an email problem, Dean,
Yeah.
because I have sent them to you, just the report I've sent to you actually multiple times.
Okay, I know I was working with Michelle late in the day, and there was some
Yeah.
issue. So I'll just mention them, and you can tell me if you're good with them then.
Sure.
Number 10 on there was about the budget process and deadlines. And my question was, did we receive extensions on those? That was for the introduction and adoption dates?
And I think the answer is yes on that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So yes, we have extensions, okay. Next was number 32. That was about the incentives for our volunteer firefighters, EMS,
Yeah,
and
that
compliance
was,
with federal
that was
requirements.
NA, which is still there because it wasn't solely, we offered the LoSAP program to our EMS, but not the fire department.
Okay.
They've declined it.
Okay, and that was for incentives outside of LoSAP also, right? I mean, that's the focus anyway, so we're good?
Yes.
Okay. Number 52A, this is just it asks about shared services agreement. I know we answered none. Do we currently, at this time, because of some recent changes, have no shared services agreement?
Correct.
Is that true?
On the categories that they list in the answer key, the answer is none above.
Okay.
None.
Given changes, the recent changes?
Correct.
right? Okay, understood. And the fourth one was just about the 66, about areas deemed in need of redevelopment, and it came to mind the DPW site with the landfill. And this is asking if we've submitted resolutions and paperwork to the DCA commissioner. And I think our answer was no, or NA, but just,
I think you're right, it was no, but I'm looking into
Okay.
that further because I need to look into that one further.
okay,
So I did get that late today.
okay. I think we're good then. Thank you, Jim. We'll have to fix the email issue. I know it's, it's frustrating, right?
Yeah, I don't know what's up there.
Yeah.
I really don't.
All right, so we just, we need to have a vote. We had a motion and a second. So all those in favor of approving Resolution 9-4, please say aye.
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 Aye. Resolution 9-4 to approve best practices inventory questionnaire is approved with, changes to some of the answers going to happen after today. Next up is a motion to approve Resolution 9-6 is awarding a contract for the construction of a pole barn storage building at White Lake Park.
I will move that we approve Resolution 9-6.
May I have a
As
second,
described.
please?
I will second.
All right, before we go to a vote, Manager Zepp, could you tell us what this is for? I know that folks on the rec committee know about it, but I think that the rest of the folks may not.
Yeah, a while back, we actually filed for a grant for White Lake, and we received the grant in the sum of $70,000. It's a reimbursable grant. And then what happened was White Lake was built, and then while White Lake was being built, we weren't in a position to utilize that grant money at that time to start building the pole barn. As you know, the White Lake is now, on that stage, virtually complete, and we're ready to proceed with the pole barn. And we also have our backup against the deadline on possible forfeiture of the grant money, 2 years, if we don't utilize it. So we went out for quotes. Our engineer went out for quotes to build a pole barn, and we also do a lot of in-house to keep the costs down. And so we're able to award a company to come in and erect a pole barn for us. I've always said this because of my public works background. I always thought it was a little nutty that we didn't have a storage facility up there. Jerry and Bill and all those guys are trailering all the mowers and the water wheels and all the equipment back and forth between Station Park and White Lake because they have no place to store them up at White Lake. So in my opinion, the pole barn is long overdue. And fortunately, it's paid for. The grant money is going to pay for it. The pole barn itself comes in at $44,000, and there's going to be some ancillary costs there with the engineer and some more material for the floor and stuff. But the grant will cover virtually all of the costs for it. So this is a no-brainer.
Any other questions with respect to Resolution 9-6? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So Resolution 9-6 has passed. Next up, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-7, authorizing the displaying of commemorative flags on township-owned flagpoles November 3rd, 2024, for the Sparta Fire Department.
I move that we approve Resolution 9-7 for the Sparta Fire Department flag, especially at this time.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it, and November 3rd is the 101st anniversary of the founding of our fire department.
And all those in favor say aye.
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 Abstains?
Abstaining.
Okay, so we have 3 ayes, 1 abstention. Next up, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-8, resolution authorizing the displaying of commemorative flag on township-owned flagpoles, November 10th, 2024, U.S. Marine Corps.
I move that we approve Resolution 9-8.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it on November 10th, which is the anniversary of the founding of the U.S. Marine Corps.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstentions?
Abstain?
Okay, so we have 3 ayes, 1 abstention. Next up, a motion to approve Resolution 9-9, resolution authorizing the displaying of commemorative flag on township-owned flagpoles, November 11th, 2024, which is Veterans Day.
I move that we approve Resolution 9-9.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
So may I have, all those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain?
So we have 3 ayes and 1 abstention. Resolution 9-9 is passed. Next is the council liaison updates. I will start to my far right with Dan, Councilman Chiarello.
Thank you. I've got a number of updates to share. I'll do that quickly. The Revolution NJ Committee, I think as I reported last time, met earlier this month. And we are readying for we believe we're going to use our December 2nd meeting, which is the first Monday in December, to invite as many other Sparta organizations, community organizations that we can identify that might want to play a role in our celebration of our 250th anniversary of the founding of our country. So we'll look, I'm trying to send out that invitation probably over the weekend, because this is my nights and weekends job, so it's probably going to be the weekend. The Environmental Commission meeting the last meeting was the 10th. The next meeting is Thursday, the 24th, in 2 days. And as we mentioned earlier, there is an open space plan review with the planning board on November 6th. The council, I believe, has been extended a formal invitation such that we can have a quorum at that meeting. Is that true? Like if 3 of us decide to go and talk to them about the open space plan?
Have to be able to advertise it.
So the Environmental Commission is introducing or reviewing the open space plan formally with the planning board on their November 6th meeting. And I think it was implied that council members could attend that meeting to join in the discussion. So in case 3 or more council members join, that probably has to be noticed and all that fun stuff.
Correct.
Within
Is that-
48
Yes.
hours.
Our recommendation? Okay.
They have 40 hours.
And you need 48 hours.
You need
40
48
hours.
hours.
Well, it's
No, you
November
can.
6th, so we've got some
You
time.
can. She's going to post it, yep.
Okay.
Sorry?
You're talking about November 6th?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that'll be advertised.
Yeah, she
no
already
worries.
did.
Grazie. Also, we are starting to re-engage or engage with our green team. Unfortunately, we had solicited a number of people to join our green team, and unfortunately, the Environmental Commission hasn't really been diligent in engaging with that group, and so we're going to rectify that. And as communication went out to all the members of the public that did sign up for our green team, asking them to join the Environmental Commission at their November 14th meeting. Just welcome them and sort of plan, noodle on what we can do with the group, set them to work. It's my reading of the Sustainable Jersey rules, guidelines, regulations, whatever, that the members of the green team need to be appointed by the council. So once we get a final list, that'll probably come before us. The Business Development Committee meeting last met on October 9th. As we talked about, thank you again for coming and spending some time with us this evening. I would mention real quick that one of the things that we talked about that the committee did was go through our application process together with the zoning and planning boards to try to, make it as tight as possible, and I think we did a good job with that. And now they're turning their attention to signs and while there is opportunity with signs, because we don't need this many pages of stuff for signs, I think we can whittle that down and make that more efficient. Parking is a little bit more complicated, and I believe we've done some tightening up the parking rules too, but parking is such that if you get it wrong, you got a safety problem. Not so much with the signs, not a lot of safety problems with signs, but if you underestimate parking, you've got a safety problem. So we need to be more diligent there, and I think we are. As my position of the Board of Ed liaison, we did have a meeting with the Board of Ed on October 10th and talked about some cool stuff. More to come on that later. Our first Sister City committee meeting was held yesterday, and it was a very good meeting. We laid the groundwork for what the next couple of months or weeks are going to look like as we start to plan two things. One is our hosting the 2026 Sparta Institute Conference here in Sparta. And number two is maybe long-term how we can better engage with our sister city in Greece and form a closer bond. That's really secondary. I have been conversing, emailing with the State Department who runs the Sister City program, and we'll meet with them probably in the next couple of weeks. And finally, for the Sister City, I want to wish all of our friends in Sparta, Greece, a happy Ochi Day. I hope I said that right, October 26th. If you don't know what Ochi Day is, very briefly, it's the Ochi means no in Greek, and it's when the Italian dictator Mussolini made an ultimatum to the head of the state of Greece, saying, "Let my army occupy certain parts of your territory," and Ochi means no, and so the response was, "No, you may not," and I think war was officially declared. So, a proud moment for people in Sparta, and happy Ochi Day. And that's all my comments on committee.
Councilman Blumetti.
Sure, with that segue, I don't think I can top that.
Oh, you can't.
Exactly. So a quick update just on planning board from our October 16th meeting. The board continued the hearing for application 713, which was Ramez and Company LLC for 61 Sparta Avenue. After a lot of discussion, the applicant will be reconsidering and revising its plan and its concept, so that was carried forward. Second is the master plan subcommittee will be meeting next week. And related to that, third is, was mentioned before by our town manager, the community input survey is open, so please fill it out. Please go there and add your input about Sparta's future. You can find it one of two ways, www.spartamasterplan.com, or you can go to our township website, spartanj.org, of course, our homepage, and it's under the news flash section on our homepage. You can scroll down a couple items and find a link there. Dan already covered the joint meeting on November 6th. So the planning board and the council has already received the open space plan and open space and recreation plan. And as it's also available to the public, so please go to the website and take a look at it as well and come to that meeting and share some thoughts. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. I think Dan handled Rev 250 and the school board. We also had a meeting with Lake Mohawk and discussed some of the issues related to the bridge, both Manitou and both the one on West Shore. Again, I think they're awaiting DEP approval, and that is why no work has been done as of yet. Also, an issue that they raised was with respect to the master plan subcommittee, was having someone on the committee who actually is, not just lives in Lake Mohawk, but works for Lake Mohawk, that has some domain expertise with the bylaws, because as folks know, Lake Mohawk is allowed to go above and beyond our ordinances with respect to certain land use. They just can't go beneath them. And so I think, I thought the point was well taken to have possibly, someone, maybe Sabine, to be sort of actively involved so they can instruct, how some of the impacts. There are some zones that do back up to Lake Mohawk, and I think that someone who's well-versed in sort of the bylaws of Lake Mohawk and some of the requirements could be useful. So I'll raise that. And so we had that meeting, was 2 weeks, but that was one of their main concerns. We have a Sparta Film Ready meeting tomorrow. We are in the midst of planning a commemoration celebration that will be open to the public on Friday, December 13th. We fully expect that by that time we will have received our designation as a Sparta Film Ready community, and so we hope to have representatives from the State Film Commission there, along with other dignitaries, and then people from the industry. Again, like I've said, it's the entertainment production in New Jersey is just growing and growing, and now there's an additional, I think they increased the tax credit to 35%, and so that's causing even more interest. And so that will be December 13th, and we'll also be showing the trailer that was produced by completely local residents from some of the talent is from outside, but the actual people who did the work and the production, from the production assistant to the lighting person to the script supervisor, are all local people. They produced it's like an 11-minute right now, depending on editing, a trailer that will then go to be pitched to various entertainment companies, from Netflix to Apple TV, et cetera. So that will be an opportunity for the public to see the work that was done. Again, that's going to be Friday, December 13th, but there will be, so we're busy planning that. And I will let Councilwoman Quinn handle the rec department. And, the trail committee, we are getting underway. We wanted to wait to have the meeting. There's a big meeting, and probably Councilwoman Quinn can allude to it in her comments, on October 25th with respect to the county. So we'd like to get some feedback on how that goes before our committee begins sort of our work on what, what we can do to improve the, parts of the rail trail that go through Sparta. The goal is so that we can hook those rail trails up to a larger initiative, and eventually have a whole connected network. And so part of that is dependent upon our neighbors in Ogdensburg and elsewhere. So that's what the October 25th will give us more insight into that. So we thought, at least I thought, it would be prudent to wait until that meeting happens, until we get underway. So with that, I will cede the mic to Councilwoman Quinn.
So I'll carry on with the rec department. So first and foremost, thank you for approving the pole barn. I think it's great. We're getting grant money for that. And I think everyone in the department is going to be very excited that they no longer have to drag all the equipment all over the place. So it's good to see this happening and us getting into the next levels of preparedness up there in White Lake, especially before the weather comes. I gave a report about a month or so ago about all the different things that the Rec Advisory Committee and the Rec Department had prioritized with regard to recreational facilities and whatnot. I do want to just let everybody know that that plan has been amended to include what's called the pump park. So if you are not familiar with it, you can go see it for yourself up in Vernon, New Jersey. It's fantastic, and what it is the way Vernon has it set up, there's 2 tracks, one for older bike and scooter riders and one for little itty-bitty. It's basically a series of hills that have little inclines on them that kids can go up there and they can ride their bikes or their scooters. And instead of just going around in a flat circle, they can really get out there and get some exercise. There's beautiful picnic tables. If you haven't seen this up in Vernon, I had never seen this before about when I came to you about 6 months ago, I guess it was.
There's a video.
And sent you the video. My daughter found this place, we went up there, and I will say in Vernon where it is, you go down this road, it looks like you're going to nowhere. There's a little business, and then you come out to the most breathtaking view of the hillside of Vernon you have ever seen. There's picnic tables and benches there so that moms and dads could bring sandwiches or things like that, and the kids could just run around and do their scooters and their bicycles up there. It's a great addition to our inventory when it comes to other recreational things available to the youth and to the people in the town. And it just so happens that our engineer was also the engineer in Vernon that brought this product to life, or this project to life. So we're in a very good position. He forwarded us the information. He did mention as well that they were able to cut costs because just like we would be doing here, they did use a lot of internal staff to be able to keep the costs a little bit lower. So I just want to point out to everybody, nothing has changed. The only thing that is added now is the actual pump park. The fall harvest camp, if you're interested, there's a kids harvest farm camp in November for kids age 7 to 12, and also for all the seniors out there that may be interested. There are tickets on sale for the Radio City Christmas Spectacular trip. So if you are a senior and you are interested in that, through the Parks and Rec Department, you can go out. The information is online to be able to actually purchase tickets. This weekend, as the manager mentioned, is the Harvest Festival. It's going to be done differently this year. There's going to be an outside company that comes in. There's going to be a lot of food trucks and all kinds of different events and games and things of that nature. The trunk or treat, God bless you, will start, I believe, at 2. I think it starts at 2 o'clock.
It does.
So a little bit later for the youngers. So the events are staged a little bit to be more age-appropriate and age-specific based on the feedback that we got. And also, it's in a new location this year, and hopefully that will help us to be able to get people out. And it's actually earlier, so it's not going to be dark. So I want to really thank the rec department and the advisory committee for all the input and the changes. I think it's going to be a great day for the community, and I do believe it's supposed to be another gorgeous weekend. So I think we have really great weather for that.
What day was that again?
What's that?
What day
Saturday.
was-
Saturday.
This coming Saturday,
Yes.
2 o'clock.
Yep. It starts at 12. The event itself starts at 12, but the trunk or treat, I believe, starts at 2. Right, Chief?
2 to 3:30.
2 to 3:30. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And as Neil mentioned also, yes, I was invited to go to the board meeting for Rails and Trails. We had a lot of discussions. I had follow-up with Landon Tanieri after a meeting a couple of months ago. We had a real great conversation. I followed up that conversation with the county to basically say, hey, it only makes sense, all of this makes sense if everyone connects, right? That's the whole point. You don't want to just spend all the money and have your town be trail-ready if no one else is going to connect to you, because then you want to take those funds and do something specific for your own town, not so much branch out to connect. So Landon and I discussed it. We also had conversations about it at the Rec Advisory Committee. The board meeting was supposed to be in September. It was moved to the end of October. So I'm planning on going to that, and we'll keep everyone posted. With regard to the Municipal Alliance, we will be at the Harvest Festival on Saturday, so please feel free to stop by. Also, we are looking into, if you guys remember, we got, the Municipal Alliance was able to work with the county and with our opioid settlement funding to be able to make a contribution to the Sparta Food Pantry in the amount of $3,000. We agreed to do that $3,000 a year for 3 years. So that payment is going to be due in December, the second payment. And also, as we had approved, and we offered to, wherever possible, let the pantry be able to use our grant service for up to, I think it was 2 grants in a year. And they came back, Valerie reached out with regard to a grant that might be available, so Marie's coordinating that to have our grant writing company just take a look at it, see if it's feasible, what's included. So we're waiting to hear back from them, and then we can get back to the pantry. So that's what's going on from the Municipal Alliance. With regard to the Board of Health, information on the website's been updated. Steve continues to do a great job. There's consistent correspondence going back and forth between all of us, and I'm copied on all of it. And also, what he's doing with the county. There's some things that have been going on with hearings and whatnot. He's very involved with that. So I think he continues to do a really great job.
He is. He helps a lot.
Yep, and I think this is all great stuff. With regard to Salute 07871, I know the holidays are coming again. This is a big time of year where a lot of people would like to purchase a flag for perhaps someone in their family that has served in the military. We've never done this before, but I'm going to do it this year. When you put the order in, you don't get a prototype because we don't have the picture yet. But I have received some requests in the past, people that want to do it for a holiday gift or a birthday gift, and have asked me, could I do a prototype so they could put it in a card or put it in a box or something like that so they can open it up and actually see what their banner will look like when it's delivered in May. So for people that are putting orders in, the system is open. You could put the order in. If it is for a gift, then you reach out to me. I will make a prototype electronically and be happy to send it out. So this way people will have something to actually put in a gift box or bag or whatever. So that's with regard to 07871. With regard to the seniors, I want to extend an enormous shout out to SCUMA. So the last senior meeting, which was this past Wednesday, happened at SCUMA. SCUMA, as always, was very gracious and gave the seniors a tour of the entire facility. If you have not seen the facility recently, it's amazing what goes on over there. It is the cleanest dump I think I've ever, I mean, it is meticulous what goes on over there. The planning, the preparation, the operation, and I will tell you, the best customer service, or I mean, really, honestly, the best customer service around. I've gone there numerous times, and I've always been blown away by how helpful and happy, and just the whole customer service experience. So a lot is going on up there. SCUMA was very nice to open up the facility for a tour for our seniors, and I really wanted to just extend a thank you to them. So thank you, SCUMA. Also, I'm going to mention it here. I had the opportunity to attend an event for Sussex County Community College Funding Their Future, and 2 Sparta residents were recognized at that event, and I really want to pass along a big congratulations from the community. So Judge Lorraine Parker and also Bill Curcio were acknowledged for their service to not only just the community, but to the college as well. Both of them have served as presidents of the board of directors. It was a great event over at Prona Farms. And again, really, if you know Bill or Judge Parker, you will know that their dedication to this community over decades of time has left an immeasurable mark on a lot of lives. So I just really wanted to make sure that I brought that back here and extended a heartfelt congratulations. So that is it for me for my report, my liaison reports.
Thank you. We're now up to unfinished and new business, and I will go first. One thing I neglected to mention was that Councilman Hertzberg and I attended the Council Connect last week, and we had a fair number of people show up, and it was good to have, the people there, but also, as folks probably know, Councilman Hertzberg and I probably see differently on a lot of issues, but I think the public benefited from hearing those different sides. I think that some of what dominated discussions was the usual, some land use things, also business development in town. But you always get kind of a novel thing when someone shows up and you've never seen before, who hasn't come to meetings, and they raise an issue about our deer population. I know we have a feeding or a feeding prohibition, but this gentleman's concern was, can you do something about the deer? They're everywhere. They're all over my yard. And as someone who managed to crash into 2 deer on 2 separate occasions in the span of 1 month, I could kind of relate to that. So I think that, I'll look into, is there any other measures that we can use to deal with the deer population? That is a quality of life issue that people encounter, good and bad. Obviously, they're very majestic and pretty until they tear up your garden and then you crash into them. So in any event, I thought that was interesting that was brought up during Council Connect. Next, I do need to make an appointment to our Trails Committee. I'm very fortunate to have someone who is also right now a member of our Rec Committee, so is well-versed in a lot of recreational issues. But do I need to make an emotion to appoint that, or is that just, do I get to?
Council appointment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we appoint Ann Lopuk, make sure I pronounce that right? Yeah, Ann Lopuk to our Trails Committee. So the motion is to appoint Ann Lopuk to our Trails Committee. And so I need a second.
I will second that.
All those in favor, do we need a roll call, or can we do it the yeas and nays?
You can do yeas and nays.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And welcome aboard, and I know our committee will really benefit from your, both your interest and experience. So thank you so much for volunteering, and we look forward to meeting in November. So thank you. Any other unfinished business from me? One issue, I think that, as I found out, one of the causes of the fire, the one I think on Sawmill had to do with the LED flashlight. And so anyone who has an LED flashlight, please, those things get very hot. And they're almost serve as like a match. They get that hot. And I asked whether the company that sells those then includes a warning with it, because there should be a fire risk warning that goes along with that. And then when I spoke to members of our fire department, they said, listen, it actually has burned through our clothes. If we leave it on, the holster that comes with it has gotten kind of burned through. And to me, it strikes me that that company should be warning folks about the heat that comes off of that, and make sure you turn it off and actually warn consumers about the possible fire risk with that. And so I'll be looking into that more. But again, if you do have one of these LED flashlights, treat it like your oven. Make sure it's turned off when you're not using it. So. In any event, that's all the unfinished and new business I have, and I will go to my right. Councilman Blumetti.
No new business for me tonight.
Councilman Chiarello.
I just have 2 things. I want to thank the Sparta PD for a great Hanging with Heroes. Love the chili. Always have a good time there. The great story, too, behind that. I don't know if we'll get into it some. So ask the chief sometime about the story, why we do that. And then secondly, this is probably just an internal for the council members notice. I'm particularly, I'm attuned, I've been employed as a data and steward and document steward before, so getting clean document storage is just in my DNA. And so with that end, the town manager and our IT directors are working to clean up our SharePoint file storage. It wasn't set up appropriately the first time, or as we have been using it. So we're migrating over to a better platform. And over the past couple of days, weeks or so, I've been, because a lot of the documents I've stored for myself, I've migrated over to a folder structure that I think everybody can navigate. Also starting to go through some old emails and moving some files over. So once that site is, the SharePoint site is formally introduced, you might see a bunch of stuff on there that will take you down memory lane with some of the documents I put on there. So, and I would encourage you to also use that site. So this is our our site to store stuff. And that's all I have.
I did forget, before I get to Councilwoman Quinn, who needs to share her new finished or unfinished business, I did want to address, I think, and it's always kind of bugged me a little bit, the way we do our public comment. I don't know if there's a legal reason why we have the public comment for items that are on the agenda at the very end.
Not on the agenda.
That if it's on the agenda, folks don't have a chance to comment on that until the very end of the meeting, which now goes close to 10 o'clock. If there's a way we could flip that, I think it would probably serve, because I know there's folks that have been here for quite some time. I don't know if we could look into that, or if there's a reason, because I know the first one has to do with not on the agenda, second one has to do with resolutions, and then the third one has to do, is a grab bag, which would include items that are on the agenda, which probably most people, if you're showing up to the meeting and you're not a normal customer, you probably want to talk about, and you're going to have to wait until the end of the meeting. So if there's a way that we could flip these, I think it would probably serve the public, but I don't know if there's a legal reason why we
Well,
do it.
I would disagree with that characterization because, as you said, the public comments at the beginning of the month, not on, beginning of the meeting, not on the agenda, also comments on resolutions and comments on ordinances that we have a hearing for. There is otherwise no public comment on an ordinance that's being introduced because the point of introduction is to bring it into the ecosphere for the public to digest and come back with comments as we go through the hearing. So I think the meeting is structured appropriately that way, and that's how I see the public comment structure. The end of the meeting comment is anything that anybody wants to talk about, but they will have, the public does have an opportunity to comment on the ordinances as they're heard.
But not till the hearing. And I think
Sure.
some people want to comment even on an introduction. And, not that that, has any force or effect, but I think there are items that are on the agenda that may even not have to do with ordinances that, that they have to wait until the very end. And so I just, in consideration of their time, just to look into that. But I wanted to raise that. And with that, I'll cede it over to Councilwoman Quinn for any unfinished or new business.
So I just wanted to revisit something. So at one of our previous meetings, I mentioned that there is a great story about Ungerman Field and how that was garnered and created and who built it. And I just want to follow up to make sure that we're looking at a plaque, a historical plaque there. It's a great story. It, when we were naming Yonkers Landing, we were having this kind of conversation about these things make these places in town really special when we can bring it back to the history and how it happened and these kind of cool stories. So I just wanted to follow up on that. I'm happy to meet with you and discuss that, and then we can get some historians involved and draft up content, but I just need to understand what you need, and I'm happy to work with you on that.
Yeah, information.
Information,
That's what I need.
got it, okay. All right, information it is.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we'll follow up on that then. Also, the Hanging with the Heroes event was fantastic. Thank you. What a great day for the community. I know this has been the ice cream social of the past, and it just has morphed into this amazing event. So thank you very much for, and please thank the officers as well for everything. It was such a great event. The fire department was there, the ambulance squad was there, the police department was there, everybody was dressed up, everybody was having a great time. So just thank you. It's a great event where the kids can get to know the police. I mean, I know that was sort of the intent of the whole thing, but it's really morphed into this really great event for the entire community. So thank you very much. Also, it is Fire Prevention Month, October, so please, 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 in addition to everything we've talked about here tonight, it's a good time for you to check your fire extinguishers and also to change the batteries, whether they need it or not, in your smoke alarms, just to make sure, or to the very least, just test them, because it can really, truly save lives. So please just be reminded, and Chief, thank you very much for coordinating the effort to get some more information on the website. I think that's great. It's really helpful to the community, especially this time of year when everyone's starting to put fires in the chimney for the first time and fire up the furnace and all that kind of stuff. Also, just something to bring up, I know we're having the master plan meeting on November 6th, but also there's there was an open space plan that was done. We've talked about it multiple times here. So if we could get a copy of that to all the council members and maybe also to members of the planning board, just so that they can compare and contrast the two, because that is a recent report. We spent a lot of money on it. I do think it's extremely comprehensive, but I think there are pieces of both things that make the whole picture. So if you could.
I can hand it out.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And the last thing I want to bring up sort of is a little more encompassing about just, there are many times and many days that we live here that we just say, wow, it's a great day to be a Spartan. It's an amazing day to be a Spartan. It's a special place to live. Last weekend was another one of those days. One of the things that this community is absolutely, is part of the fabric and the DNA of who we are, regardless of opinions and all this kind of stuff, is when something happens, we come together, period, end of discussion, full stop, doesn't matter. That's what we do. Whatever's needed, we come together. I've seen that, I've lived here over 3 decades. I'm looking at, I know a lot of you have lived here a lot longer than that, and you would probably agree. That's what makes us special. So one of our residents, his name is Daniel. He's in 8th grade. He is fighting cancer for the 2nd time. You may have seen things over social media or whatnot about number 11. They're referencing Daniel. It's going through a rough time right now. And I want to just thank Chief McCarrick, the fire department, the police department, and everyone, because what you guys did in coordinating that entire event down at the field was amazing. So if people are not familiar with exactly what was going on for Daniel, what ended up happening was there was a fire department there with the fire truck. Chief McCarrick coordinated the Flight for Life to fly over when they were down there. Everybody was there from the EMS, the fire department, like I said, the fire department had the truck, the police officers were there. North Star was the helicopter, I believe, right, Chief? North Star was the helicopter. And it just brings you back to the fabric of the community, the people that are always there, why the place is so special and why everybody loves living here. And, the dedicated efforts of the police, the fire, the EMT to always be there. They're always present. They always show up. You can always count on them. What they did in responding to all of those fires and all of the things all the time. I mean, if we look outside of the police department, EMS and fire is completely volunteer. They're getting up for work in the morning, the next morning, after being at a fire till 2:30 in the morning. Our police officers are exhausted. They're coming in, and they have a next shift. Regardless of the horrendous, horrible things they see, they're our heroes. I said this a million times. They're running in, we're running out. They're amazing, and this is just another example of, just being present and being committed. So I really wanted to take a minute and just explain to everybody this event and what it took to put it together and how special it was for the family. And there's going to be another event this Friday night. Daniel's actually going to have the ability to be able to bring his team out on the field, is my understanding of it, down at Station Park. So anyone that's interested can certainly go down there and see it for yourself. But I just wanted to point it out. It's just always going above and beyond all the time. And also for Daniel, this very brave young man, if anyone is interested, there is a GoFundMe site, so I would encourage you to go out if you would like to contribute. If you're so inclined to do so, you can go out to GoFundMe and please make a contribution. And that's it.
Thank you.
Oh, no, that is not it, because we have a birthday girl in the house. Roxanne, don't hide. Happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday, Ron.
Happy birthday.
So she's now legal to drink at 21, so. All right, we are now at our final public comment period. Again, could be anything, both an item on the agenda, not on the agenda, whatever you want to talk about. Just please state your name and please adhere to the 5-minute limit.
Jenny Derricks, Tap into Sparta. I have quite a list. Some of the old favorites, the brownfields and the minutes. Do we have an update on the brownfields?
I don't have anything to report on.
Thank you. I appreciate that some of the minutes are being done. We still have quite a ways to go, so thank you for your continued effort on that. Do we have an update on the comments I made last meeting about having a representative from Sparta, one of our engineers, sitting with Bill Copenal when they're negotiating with Diamond Chip at the county?
Yes, the engineers reached out to Bill, and we've asked to be included in any future meetings dealing with that subject.
Thank you.
Do you know what they said, or they just, you haven't responded?
They haven't responded, but they know what our intention is, and I kind of said we're going to be there.
Okay.
So,
Our affordable housing fair share number was published last week. Is there any expectation or anticipation of Sparta either negotiating or appealing our 1,000-unit or so obligation? Is there any discussion about joining the nearly 30 other municipalities in their litigation?
if you don't mind, I'll take that. Council, you're not aware of this yet, but in your email inbox is a lengthy email from me regarding the housing number and the obligation and the recommendation that the next council meeting, we have an executive session to discuss all the points that Ms. Derricks just made. There's a lot to consider in this. There's a lot of options and ramifications, and I think it all needs to be discussed appropriately, and then we could report about it.
Yeah, I would just supplement that by saying yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
We're certainly taking a look at the litigation that was initiated by Montvale, Denville, Florham Park, Hillsdale, Mannington, Milburn, Montville, Old Tappan, and Totowa. Now that we've received our numbers, and they seem to be exceptionally high, relatively speaking, so we're taking a look at that. We're also taking a look at the New Jersey Institute of Local Government Attorneys, who have initiated, with the assistance of certain legislators, litigation that would make the process more realistic. We're going to be bringing that as we get more details of it, bringing more of that information back to the council and discussing with the council further what other strategies can be taken. But I expect a pretty long process, because I don't believe that the numbers that we did receive, which are being reviewed by our town planner as well, really reflect a number of factors that are unique to Sparta Township. I don't think they adequately
Right.
take them into consideration.
Our sewer service area and our Highlands restrictions and all of that. I mean,
Highlands
yeah,
and our
I appreciate
sewer
that.
capacity.
Great, thank you. I have a number of questions for Chief. Is that okay? Depends on what they are. Okay, so going back a few minutes ago, or about an hour ago, Mr. Clark said cannabis is being sold in Sparta right now, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, if cannabis or
I think it's
unregulated
really
cannabis
marijuana.
is illegal
Right.
to be sold.
Okay.
At that point, if it's not regulated, like you're proposing, it is illegal.
So is that, do you see that, so right now, there's two ways people can have cannabis legally in Sparta. They can have enough within there's a table that shows how much they're allowed to have for their personal use.
Correct.
Secondly, if they are delivering to someone in Sparta, they're allowed to have that, and there's a vetting process, licenses and all of that, approvals and so forth. But beyond that, are there places in Sparta that you know of that cannabis is, or marijuana is being sold, grown, processed, packaged?
I can't specifically comment that right now because of an investigation, so.
Okay, that's fair. So this goes to my next question. Do you feel that there are tools that you need to support your efforts as a police department to get in front of all of all of the cannabis or the illegal sales of cannabis that's going on in our town?
I'm kind of confused by what.
Do you need more rules? Do you need more, like, what's stopping, do you feel like you're being overwhelmed with illegal drug sales in Sparta?
No.
You have the tools you need to do that. So this gifting thing, that's frequently the loophole that cannabis or marijuana is sold, because if it's not legal, it's marijuana. Where somebody will go in, they'll buy a $50 lighter or $20 air freshener, and as a gift, they'll get, I know my time is up, but I also had people speaking to me, that they'll get the gift.
We'll let them
right.
answer, and then we can.
So
turn it
from
over.
what the Attorney General said, that is distribution, illegal distribution.
And so if you become aware of that, and maybe you already are, maybe, I don't want to get into what you're doing, but if you become aware of a gifting situation, you can take steps to stop that.
Absolutely.
So the security of the town for all this cannabis that's being sold, we don't really, you don't see that we're being overrun by that.
I do not see that we're being overwhelmed by it. From a standpoint of the police department and what we do for investigation, we're not overwhelmed, no.
Okay, thank you for your help.
Anyone else for public comment?
I am Ann Lopuck, Lopuch. And I just had a couple questions about the ordinance that we discussed. I'm just wondering about the
It
timing.
might be easier just to get the questions out so we don't take up your time answering them.
Excuse me?
I don't want to take up your time, or people don't want to take up your time answering the questions, so if you get all your questions out initially, then you can make sure all your questions are asked at least.
Okay. Well, my first question is about the timing of this ordinance. I know that we're in the middle of amending the master plan, and we're also asking citizens through a survey some of their, what they would like for the town. So I'm just wondering why we're not waiting for those results to come in and for the master plan committee to talk a little bit more about what our vision of Sparta is for the future. That's my first question. And my second question is, if this does go forward, and I'm just wondering why we need all 6 of these classes that are in the ordinance. I can understand maybe the retail, not that I want it, but I don't really understand why we need cultivating, manufacturing, wholesaling, and distributing, or delivery, for that matter. So I'm wondering if that's really necessary and if some of those can be eliminated during the discussion process. Not that I really want this ordinance to go forward, so those are my questions.
I'll just answer for myself. The first about the master plan, I think that as far as, township buy-in to this, I think you have to go back to, it was on a referendum a few years back about whether Sparta residents would support the legalization of cannabis and also the taxing of it. And so if you have the taxing of it, would obviously imply that you were going to be selling it. And that, I think the results were over 60% supported it. And so I don't think you necessarily need to wait to master plan. Plus, these uses are, not all that different than what we have now. For example, you have, it's not cannabis, it's, cannabis, THC derived, Delta 8, et cetera, being sold as a commercial business in a commercial zone. So I don't know how that's really much different than an actual regulated product. Also, you have, for example, you have a liquor store in a commercial area. That doesn't seem any materially different than cannabis in my mind. So that's how that's why I don't think it's necessary, at least my opinion, that may not be shared by anyone here, of why it's not waiting for the master plan. As for the various licenses, part of it is simply, these are the licenses that are allowed. Part of it is you look at it as a revenue stream, because as the way the tax structure is, you get the 2% and 1% for, I think, wholesale, along each chain of the distribution. And so if there's $1 million of product that's manufactured, you get 2% off of that. And then it goes to your wholesaler, and that's another 2%. That same unit. Then it gets to the distribution, which would be 1%, and then at the retail. So all along the chain of distribution, there's the incentive for revenue. And and I've looked at the intensity of this use is not that much. And we're constantly having these battles in Sparta about ratables and needing revenue, and we tend to side on these gigantic uses with high intensity in the name of ratables. And to me, cannabis sales are a low-intensity use. Particularly, there's not tractor trailers bringing this stuff. It's sort of silver line vans. Those are little vans, because it's a fresh product. You can't just put a whole tractor trailer full of the stuff. That's just not how it's distributed. So it wouldn't be, and it definitely wouldn't be the amount that you would have on a logistics terminal. So again, I think that's sort of my rationale. That's me. I don't know if that's shared by my fellow, but that's the rationale behind having all the various classes, is to take advantage of the 2% tax structure, and to, when I look at some of the wish lists that our rec department has, for example, how are we going to pay for that? I'd rather not pay for it through a gigantic, huge developments in town. I feel in my mind this is more low-intense use with a high revenue stream. When I went to the presentation at the mayor's conference this winter, I had the mayor of Maplewood come, and they have 4 retail licenses, and she said in just 2023 alone, they made $650,000. That's just on retail. Now, granted, that's a function of how much competition there is in the area. We are behind the 8 ball here in Sussex County. There's already Jefferson, there's already Andover, and also Newton. So the train is leaving the station on this. So that's sort of my view of it. But that may not be shared by others. But that's sort of my approach to it, on top of I'd rather have a regulated market than an unregulated one.
I guess my question was really, do we need all 6 of these classifications? And I guess your answer is that, yes, we do, for monetary reasons. And I'm not sure if maybe I'm the only one that thinks this, but my opinion is I'd rather not have the money. And if we need things for the rec department or other things in our town, then, look for grants or wait. I'd rather not have the money.
Okay.
So I'd like to, so you were sitting here, so I don't want to be redundant in what I said before. I agree with you. I don't think we need all 6. I don't agree with going from 0 to full throttle and just opening up every single venue of it. The other thing that everyone needs to understand is Big Pharma is getting into the medical marijuana field. So this is a big deal for Big Pharma, and that's going to make big bucks along with the state, because now they want to get into the marijuana game. So just to level set, the other thing is, so that really sets the township up for different things. The ratables, when I tell you, and I encourage you to go out and look as well, while I was able to find exact numbers as to how much the state of New Jersey had made, I was unable to get exact information on how much municipalities had made. And to the point, it does depend on your density. We're low density. It does depend, what's your proximity, what's around you, what is your competition, what is your supply, what is your demand. The money is so de minimis at 1% that just think about how much you have to sell to make a big profit at 1%. That's great for Belmar. Like, I was just reading a big thing about Belmar, and they're like, oh, we're making all this money. What money? I want to see a number. Give me a number. Because when we talk about ratables, we're talking about changing zones to let out all these other businesses, and now we think that weed is going to come in and save the day with ratables. The problem is, and I would love to be proven wrong by somebody show me data. All I want to see is data. What are other municipalities like us actually making? Jefferson has no data, Andover has no data, Newton has no data, there's no data. So if we're gonna move forward under the preface of selling this to the community, as we're gonna make all this money and get ratables for the rec part and everything else, maybe we should just be able to actually look at how much money that's gonna be. So I wanna thank you, Ann, for bringing it up. I think I am also concerned about the 6 uses. I don't think we're ready. And I can't answer anything other than I just want to say thank you for stepping up and making your concerns and asking your questions as well.
Thank you.
I'd like to add one more comment on the different uses. There's a few ways to think about it. How different are these uses from what we're doing today? I had a conversation recently with someone that said, why would somebody be against cultivating the product? People are okay if we were, think about alcoholic products. If we were going to have a barley or hops or grapes grown or wheat, what have you, potatoes for vodka. Would someone be equally against that? Or is there another reason why perhaps someone may or may not want those types of products in our town, whether it's for the cultivation, whether it's for warehousing or manufacturing? So I think there's different layers of the reasoning of, if we're looking at 6 uses, what's the underlying cause, for the pros and cons? I think we have to think through that. It's a great question. So thank you.
Mark Scott, 9 Pueblo Parkway. And I just wanted to answer Christine's question. If the pot store is doing $5 million of business, and it's thus making $100,000 of tax revenue for Sparta, that means each of the 16,000 adults in Sparta will have to smoke $312 of pot a year. So we better get going, because that's ridiculous. Ridiculous to change this entire town. Entire town. The town of Madison today said, we are exiting. We are exiting one of the most lovely towns in this state. They are exiting after 5 years. Thank you.
Hi, Ron Day, 22 Fox Hollow Road. A couple things. I think first, I just want to thank Chief McCarrick and the whole police department. The community outreach programs that you do, we talked about hanging with the heroes, but there was coffee with the cops. There's all kinds of things I keep reading about. The fire department just had invited everyone to go up to the fire department and see the engine, but it's just amazing what you continue to do. I'll just give you real quick. I had my 2 grandsons in from Texas, and after going to the Hanging with the Heroes events, they are begging their parents to move to Sparta right now. So thank you for that. It would be inappropriate, I think, for me to talk about the ordinances themselves tonight, but I do want to talk about the process going forward a little bit if we can. So now that the ordinances that they've been introduced, the planning board is required now to do a consistency review. We've got a defined period of time that we have to do that within. Mr. Ryan, I believe it's 25 days, or it's less than 30 days. So it's going to be quick. Yep. The planning board is not going to have a regular meeting on 11/20. The reason for that is I believe that's when the state has its municipal, the conference. Thank you. So that really says to meet that date.
And does that impact I'm sorry, finish.
Yeah, because I think that puts it out past the period of time we have based on the introduction tonight. So to meet that date, we're going to probably need to schedule something for November 6th, which is our next meeting. And that's also going to be the same night we're talking about the open space and recreation plan. And we were also going to be talking about the PDRM2 zone. So there's a lot going on the planning board. So my request tonight is to help us along. Please get copies of the ordinance as it was modified to the planning board as soon as possible. So, because we're going to need to get it into our professionals' hands, and we're going to be looking to them for some guidance. So the sooner we can get that done, the better. And, we'll do the best we can in the amount of time we have.
Can I ask one question? Tom, is it possible for us, I know the rules say 30 days, can we grant them an extension to help them so that they don't follow? Can we do that from where we sit here?
That's possible. That's possible.
I mean, it sounds like the.
I think what I'd like to do is see what we can do between now and the 6th,
Okay.
and then we can address it then. And the last point, just on a different subject, is so the master plan subcommittee, you heard a lot about it today. A lot of good people doing a lot of good work and trying to get the word out about the survey. The subcommittee had a really great milestone day today. We received our 500th survey, so pretty good. A lot of people, just trying to remind people, get out in front of everybody. So I just want to take a moment just to make, again, ask everyone out there, if you haven't participated in the survey and submitted a survey, please do it. The more feedback we get, the better representation of the entire community that we'll get. So thanks everyone that did it. I thank everyone that will be doing it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Just, on that survey, one of the questions was you have to put a dot on your favorite part of Sparta. So I put a dot on my house, just in case you get some really weird thing, so make sure you guys really emphasize that that's
Well,
the
now
place
your
you want to
survey's
develop.
no longer anonymous. Thanks, Dan.
Why?
It's an area in need of redevelopment.
Exactly. That grant money is
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, Dean Reinauer, 15 Birch Parkway. When you guys do the Council Connect, just saying the Heroes thing was really wonderful the other Friday night, and it made me think back, Chris, what you were saying, and long ago when I met you 30-some years ago, when we would have the Milk Bowl, and there would be, fundraisers done for the benefit of kids, and I was slinging chili and everything else with Ryan Caruso's father. And I think about Katrina, when my brother and I did all the raising and bringing the stuff and met Duffy Brennan, and we had the trucks and brought everything down to Louisiana. And now it's the Knights of Columbus, the Veterans, Samaritan's Purse, and all the trucks that went. Maybe it might be nice just to, that whole camaraderie feeling, since everybody seems to be at each other's throats, that, you mentioned something that's coming up. So like Gil Gibbs, who, for those that don't know, the former mayor in town and used to be a neighbor of mine, he said another letter request was going to go out for the people of Western North Carolina. So they've collected the first rounds that went out and the second one. So I'm just saying, I think people, I work out of the area, some people don't have kids, that's also me, but certainly very much involved in other things, that it might just be helpful to bring the camaraderie, what makes Sparta special.
I think it's actually a really great usage of our investment in Smart 911, and the rave system, the old rave system. That's where you're getting the communications for the Council Connect and all the different things.
Just mention it,
And that's
you're aware
good.
of this thing with the young boy, which I saw on Facebook, but, for people that aren't, I just think it's something that, people need some help, people need some assistance, the fires, whatnot.
We actually said we were going to start working on a promotion campaign for it, not just for residents and business owners to actually enter, but also to get people to understand that we have it. So I think that's a great piece for us, Dean, to build in. Hey, if you have an event, you know what I mean, that you would like us to, within reason, we have to have rules. But if you have an event that you would like us to share on this, for people that opt into events, they would then get a text, rather than having to take a chance on, if you don't go on Facebook for a couple days, or you don't go on Instagram or whatever else thing you're on, you could miss it. So I love that, and we could take that into consideration when we're building that marketing.
And then as far as the LED lights, and I'm saying this from very personal business experience, the City of New York Police Department Archives is one of our tenants on our properties, and it was a 5-alarm fire in New York. And the City of New York residential buildings, there was passed that no e-bikes could be stored in residential buildings because of the lithium batteries. And however, what happened is a lot of those e-bikes were stored by the police in a building that happened to be the building that we own, okay, caught on fire, and archives were lost in Brooklyn. But thank God they were like 50-year-old records, not anything more current. But just if you're going to take any consideration in anything to do with anything with the lithium and the heat, please don't put it next to any housing, residential, or anything that can go boom. So.
Thank you, Dean. Oh.
Did I do that? Oh. And it went boom.
Yeah, Dean, I think.
Hey, Dean, mic drop. Mic drop.
You raised two good points. First, to the latter one, I think with respect to the storage of e-bikes and ones that are lithium pattern generated, I think we should probably look at that and make sure we're having sort of regulations around that. I know New York did pass some type of ordinance about the storage of them because they do overheat, and they've had a series of incidents involving them. So that's good. As to your other point about publicizing these kind of community-wide events, I think, I just couldn't help but think that what they do demonstrate is that we're not as polarized as we think we are. Because if we were, you wouldn't have a turnout like you did. If we were so polarized on our partisan views, we wouldn't bother to show up with our fellow neighbor who we probably argued with on Facebook. And so I think it's a great reminder to us that we really are more a product of our community and not to what we hear on social media or on the mainstream media. And so I think that what we saw demonstrated with Daniel, what we saw demonstrated with the Hanging with Heroes event, I think, and all the people who turn out and give, shows that this community is connected by our common connection who want best for Sparta. And, we're coming up on an election season, a very divided one nationally, but I think it does us well to remember that what really matters is our own community members and reaching out to them, and we aren't as divided as we think we are. And that's clearly demonstrated by the people who've donated to the Helene and also to Daniel and all the other events that we see. So let's focus on that. And with that, sorry, Margie, go ahead.
Margie Murphy, 9 Pueblo Parkway. I just wanted to thank you again, the best chili and pumpkin soup I've ever had. And that could be a fundraiser selling the recipe, but then it wouldn't be your own. But Christine, thank you very much as a member of the Board of Trustees for the Sparta Community Food Pantry. Thank you. We really, really appreciate it. And now we can start to get on our way to buy our own truck, and we don't have to rent it 3 times a week. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And for the grant writing opportunities. Thank you.
I'll be in touch. We haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
All right, anyone else for public comment? All right, see no one. That concludes our public comment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you for everyone for sticking around.
Thank you, Roxanne. Happy Halloween, and more importantly, happy birthday. It's until Saturday. Something to look forward to.
Is it in your spam? I got it.